Chapter 1867. Joseph scratched his throat, but he couldn't spit anything out. At the moment, he was in extreme pain. He kept rolling on the ground. Joseph was in extreme pain. His clothes were torn too. At this moment, something seemed to be drilling under his skin. Jiggs took a few steps back in fear. He stared at Joseph in shock. It was a twisted face. The strange face wriggled under Joseph's skin. It wasn't just one. A second face appeared too. Jiggs had never seen such a strange scene before. It made him forget his hatred. He kept staring at Joseph. "Save me! Save me!" Joseph stood up with difficulty. He staggered toward Jiggs. At this time, even his head was deformed. On the left side of his head, another face appeared. His head doubled in size too. The other face had a strange expression. Then his body expanded too. More than 10 faces appeared on his body, covering his front, back, left, and right in layers. Then his limbs were covered by the twisted faces too. Jiggs retreated in fear, his face pale. "Roar! I'm going to kill you. Kill all of you!" Jiggs howled. He looked even scarier. But at the same time, he suffered even greater pain. Disbelief filled Jiggs' face. What's wrong with him? I don't know. It looks like he's accepted the spirit of death. Disgusting. He can even fuse with such a filthy substance. His soul must be filthy too. Harris took a few steps back in disgust. Klaus took out a machine gun and handed it to Jiggs. "You can shoot him as hard as you can to vent the hatred in your heart." Jiggs froze. He looked at the twisted Joseph, still hesitating. Just then, Joseph pounced at Jiggs. Jiggs pulled the trigger instinctively. Bang, bang, bang. Joseph took a few steps back. Jiggs lost his balance and fell to the ground. Joseph charged at Jiggs again. Jiggs covered his head in fear. But the next moment, he heard a dull thud. He lowered his arm and saw Chun Zhao standing before him. Joseph, on the other hand, was sent flying more than 10 meters away. "He can't hurt you here," Chun Zhao said. "Klaus, give him a stronger weapon." "Wait, I'll go get the Gatling from the warehouse." Not long after, Klaus brought out a full set of Gatling guns. Of course, Jiggs couldn't just shoot with a Gatling gun. "We still need cows to set up the shelves." "All right, you can start firing now." Jiggs was still in a daze when he was dragged to the Gatling rack. This was his first time playing with this thing. Joseph roared and became even crazier. "Kill, kill, kill. Kill all of you." Everyone stepped aside. Jiggs took a deep breath and pulled the trigger. The sound of the Gatling gun firing was completely different from that of a normal machine gun. Shell casings poured down like rain, and the bullets were also shot out crazily. Joseph didn't even manage to run a few steps before his body was shot into pieces. Jiggs continued to vent the hatred in his heart. The hatred in his heart was constantly released with the firing of the Gatling gun. Jiggs didn't stop until he finished shooting. By now, Joseph had already become a pile of rotten meat. But there was still something wriggling in the pile. "He's not dead." Jiggs's face was filled with shock. This thing is really resistant to physical attacks. At this moment, Joseph stood up again. What a special feeling. This feeling of being reborn is really intoxicating. It'll be even better if I use this power to kill you all. Joseph's body wasn't so big anymore. Instead, it shrunk a lot, but it seemed to have become even more terrifying. His arms turned into blades. He was intoxicated by his new power. Jiggs's face was pale. "Did I go overboard?" Jiggs looked at Chun Zhao and the others. He realized that they weren't worried at all. Instead, they looked at Joseph's new form with interest. Suddenly, Jiggs saw a white figure descend from the sky and land behind Joseph. What is that?" Joseph also felt a chill on his back. He suddenly turned around, and the blade on his arm slashed behind him. The blade passed by Pamela's body, and she was cut in half. But Joseph's arm turned into ice, and Pamela's body was back to normal. "Little guy, who did you say you wanted to kill?" When Joseph heard Pamela's voice that was as cold as winter, he retreated in fear and looked at Pamela warily. "Pamela, he's our toy. You don't have to do anything." "Yes, President." Pamela floated out of the circle. Jiggs turned his stiff neck and looked at Chun Zhao. That is, as you can see, the people gathered here aren't normal people or not human. Chun Zhao said calmly. For example, Lady Pamela. She's a banshee. There are hundreds of evil spirits beside you. They're Lady Pamela's evil spirit army, Harold said. But you can't see them. Jiggs gasped. Coldness invaded his entire body. Right now, Joseph was like a trapped beast, terrified and helpless. He wanted to explode, but everyone here made him powerless. In Chun Zhao's group, he was a pitiful bug. Only then did Jiggs realize the true secret here. Why would Chun Zhao say that before bringing him here? Okay, push the meat grinder over, Chun Zhao said. Rumble. The meat grinder made a loud noise. The ear-piercing sound made Joseph even more uneasy. He turned to run, but a bolt of lightning fell from the sky. Joseph was blasted away. Did I allow you to leave? Chun Zhao looked at Joseph. I don't want to die. I don't want to die. Joseph screamed, but his pleas couldn't make anyone pity him. Chun Zhao went up and grabbed Joseph's neck. Joseph reached out and stabbed at Chun Zhao's chest. But the blade on his arm couldn't do any damage to Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao broke Joseph's arms with his other hand. You should be more obedient. Chun Zhao had someone bring a bag and put Joseph inside, but he left his head outside. Then Chun Zhao casually tossed the bag and Joseph into the meat grinder. Tragic cries spread through the entire headquarters. Chapter 1868. The scream made Jiggs' hair stand on end. Blood sprayed out from the end, but the flesh started wriggling again. Joseph stood up once more. Jiggs was in disbelief. He still couldn't kill him? Did he have an immortal body? Even Joseph couldn't believe it. Even Joseph couldn't believe it. He'd gone through the meat grinder and still couldn't kill himself. Ha ha. Joseph laughed wildly. I have an immortal body. I can't die. It's your turn now. President, this guy's kind of dumb but cute, Jalanash said teasingly as she looked down at Joseph from the window. There was no such thing as an immortal body in this world. True people in the supernatural world all knew this. There was no true immortal body in this world. If he couldn't be killed yet, it was only because he hadn't found a way to kill him yet. Joseph was far from being unkillable. Hallies knew 100 ways to kill him. Moreover, the spirit of death wasn't some heaven-defying substance. Only a noob like Joseph would think that he'd obtained incredible power. President, do you need my help? Donya Tianchi held the katana in his hand. He flicked his thumb, revealing a line of the blade. Even though it wasn't completely unsheathed, the white-faced ghost still emitted a terrifying demonic aura. No need. He can't take one hit from you. The white-faced ghost's slash wasn't a physical attack. No matter what it slashed at, it only needed one slash, and one slash was enough to kill. Of course, there were only two types of enemies. One was those he couldn't beat. For example, he couldn't fight against someone like Chun Zhao. The other was those who were weaker than him. He could kill them with one hit. Immortality was just a joke in front of him. He could seal off vitality with one hit, even if the target wasn't alive. Chun Zhao looked at Jiggs and asked, do you want to kill him with your own hands? Can he be killed? How? Chun Zhao took out a bottle and handed it to Jiggs. Jiggs realized that the bottle was filled with red liquid this time. Judging from its viscous state, it looked like some kind of blood. What's this? Just pour this on him and you'll be able to kill him instantly. Jiggs gathered his courage and walked toward Joseph. Joseph still wanted to intimidate Jiggs. But the next moment, Pamela blew a breath of cold air at Joseph from a dozen meters away. The lower half of Joseph's body was frozen solid. Get lost. Don't come near me, Joseph roared. The bottle in Jiggs's hand made him very uncomfortable. Jiggs opened the bottle cap, and a gust of hot air rushed out. What exactly is this thing? Why does it make me feel so hot? Jiggs splashed the red liquid on Joseph's body. Joseph screamed again. She wondered how many times he had screamed tonight, but it was different from before. Before, he only felt pain, but this time he felt death. Joseph's flesh began to burn, or even boiling. It was a more painful process than being thrown into a meat grinder. Soon, Joseph's entire body was set ablaze. Even the ice was melted. Joseph howled in pain and struggled, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't extinguish the flames on his body. Jiggs hurriedly took a few steps back to avoid being affected by the flames on Joseph's body. What kind of liquid was that? It could actually burn. He didn't know that the bottle just now contained the blood of a fire dragon. The blood of a fire dragon contained a large amount of fire element. It also had a powerful exorcism effect. Normal evil spirits wouldn't dare to touch it. Just a little bit and their souls would be ignited. Joseph wasn't even strong. Many twisted monsters had his regenerative abilities. It wasn't a unique ability, and Joseph thought he was invincible. In reality, if he was hit a few times, he would lose his consciousness and become a twisted monster. Many people in the society had seen this stuff and were already used to it, especially since Hallie's would come up with one every few days. The things that Joseph and Hallie's had created were not the most powerful. Finally, there was no more sound from Joseph. His body was turning into ashes. Jiggs let out a long sigh. He was a little disappointed. Joseph was dead. He suddenly regretted killing Joseph so quickly. But he was still a normal person. While Joseph was still alive and kicking, he was still in a state of panic. He was afraid that Joseph would lose control accidentally. But after Joseph died, he felt that he'd let Joseph off too easily. At this moment, another bolt of lightning suddenly descended, directly bombarding the still burning ashes. Chun Zhao's last strike had completely turned Joseph's bones into ashes. Okay, this ends here. Jiggs, you can stay here until your wife recovers, Chun Zhao said. Remember what I told you. I won't tell the outside world about this place. Maiev won't either. Chun Zhao nodded. Take him to a room. Jax and Mo Ka walked out of the mansion. They'd been dealing with the corpses for most of the night. Suddenly, Jax lifted his leg and kicked Mo Ka's, but Mo Ka was kicked to the ground. Boss, you almost killed us. Jax didn't feel good. They'd been enjoying the show. But Mo Ka's reckless behavior not only dragged them into the situation, they'd also offended Chun Zhao. Chun Zhao didn't kill them both. It was already God's blessing. Jax was furious, but he didn't dare to take revenge. He could only vent it on Mo Ka. Plus, it was Mo Ka's fault in the first place. Mo Ka rubbed his butt and stood up. He lowered his head and didn't say anything. He followed Jax silently. Tell our people to leave L. Hey, immediately, Jax said. We can't stay here anymore. Boss, will that person kill us? Mo Ka asked in fear. Now you're scared? Why didn't you look scared when you attacked? Mo Ka didn't dare talk back. How could he not be scared? In 20 minutes, he'd killed more than 100 people. He'd never killed so many people in his life. He'd never seen such a terrifying person or enemy. The mercenaries and killers that disappeared in L.A. in the past 2 years were probably done by that person, Jax said. He probably thinks that L.A. is his territory. If we stay here, we'll only give him an excuse to attack us. Chapter 1869. England, Edinburgh. This was the capital of Scotland and the most developed city in England apart from London. It had a strong industrial base and high-tech industries. Of course, it was also a very famous cultural city. Ruan Faxben led the way, followed by Exine Lee, Kalon, Moore, and Lisa. They were standing in front of castle. Edinburgh was located at the mouth of the sea on the east coast of Scotland. So many castles here were built on cliffs. The castle in front of them, called Death Valley, was built on the cliffs of the coastline. Death Valley Castle was not inferior to Edinburgh Castle at all. They didn't know why this castle had such an ominous name. They came to Death Valley Castle today to visit the owner of the castle. However, when everyone entered the Death Valley Castle, an eerie chill assaulted them. It's so uncomfortable here, Kalon said, touching his goosebumps. There were some modern appliances in the castle, but the overall style still retained the ancient style. Of course, some damaged areas have been repaired. Due to the original design flaw, the inside of the castle was not transparent. It gave people a particularly eerie feeling. Death Valley used to be the territory of the leader of the rebel army, Earl Nagran Vagris. However, the rebel army was eventually defeated by the government. It said that Earl Nagran Vagris was hanged in the deepest part of this castle, Ruan Faxben said. Ruan Faxben said, The castle and the noble title are now inherited by the descendants of Earl Nagran Vagris. Just then, a clear sound of footsteps could be heard. It's not the rebel army, it's the Revolutionary Army. A woman walked over. The woman had long blonde hair, was tall, and wore high heels. She looked smart and capable. The woman looked at everyone with a condescending gaze. I'm Nala L., Mr. Vagris's assistant. Are you the one who wants to see Mr. Vagris? Beautiful lady, I'm Ruan Faxben. Hello. Ruan Faxben reached out his hand, but Nala L. didn't. This made Ruan Faxben feel rather awkward. His hand froze in the air, not knowing whether to withdraw or release it. Wait here. I'll go inform Mr. Vagris. Although you have an appointment, Mr. Vagris's temper has always been erratic. He might not see you. Knock, knock, knock. Nala Iyer stepped on the heaven-hating heights and left. Her footsteps were as arrogant as she was. What an unlikable woman, Ruan Faxburn murmured. Faxy, it's mainly because you're not likable. You're already in your 40s, and you're the kind of person who doesn't care about your appearance. Why do you have to act like a gentleman? Reisa teased. Shut up. I'm not even 50 yet, Ruan Faxy yelled in annoyance. If the president is here, he can definitely change that woman's attitude. Bullshit. The president is so young. How could he have the temperament of a mature man like me? But the guild leader is more charming than you. That's right. Uncle is a perfect man. Exionly said, handsome, young, gentle, rich, and powerful. Ruan Faxben rolled his eyes. Little girl, you haven't seen your uncle's cruel side, right? If he gets angry, he'll transform into a demon. Even if he's angry, there must be a reason. Xinli was Chun Zhao's diehard fan. Also, I can feel a strong sense of jealousy from your tone. You're jealous of him. Ruan Faxben turned his head away, asking for a snub. Facing a brainless fan, no words could wake her up. Just then, Nala Iyer returned. Everyone immediately quietened down. Mr. Vagris agreed to see you, but you better be mentally prepared. Mentally prepared for what? Nala Iyer hesitated. Mr. Vagris is a bit weird. He always thinks of himself as a vampire. It's fine, Ruan Faxben said, smiling. We'll cooperate with his performance. All right, please follow me. After passing through the long corridors, they finally reached the depths of the castle. A man in classic British aristocratic attire leaned against the window, looking at the sea outside. Count Vagris. Ruan Faxben put one hand on his chest respectfully and bowed with his head lowered. Shouldn't vampires hide in dark rooms? Aren't you afraid of the sun shining on you? Risa tilted her head and looked at the man before her. It's the sun now. It's in the other direction of the castle. It can't shine here, Nagran Vagris said. Nagran Vagris said, and vampires hate the sun, not fear it. Ruan Faxben knew that one of Chun Zhao's subordinates was a vampire, but he hadn't heard that Chun Zhao was afraid of the sun. Nagran Vagris waved at Nala Iyer, gesturing for her to leave. After Nala Iyer left, Nagran Vagris ran his hands through his hair. Everyone sized up the vampire in front of them. You are the dead Duke Nagran Varglis? Ruan Faxburn asked in a probing manner. Are you surprised? You must have encountered many supernatural creatures, right? Quite a few, but it's my first time with vampires, Ruan Faxben said. Ruan said, but I heard that even vampires don't live more than 200 years, right? It's a matter of power, Nagran said. When I break through some shackles, I have a lifespan that surpasses my peers. Tell me, what do you want from me? Don't tell me that you want to turn into a vampire. Only ordinary people can do it, and the process is very complicated. No, we want to know the contents of the Book of Prometheus, Xinli said eagerly. Xinli said impatiently. You were the one who donated the Book of Prometheus to the British Museum, right? Did you leave a copy? Nagran Varglis looked at Xinli in surprise. Your blood looks delicious. Ruan Faxben looked at Nagran Vagris. Please don't do anything to these children, especially this girl. Trust me, her parents are very fierce. I'm fierce too, Nagran Vagris said with a smile. Her parents only need to call 23rd generation Blood Mary to come and support her. Count Nagran Vagris, are you sure you can handle it? 23rd generation Blood Mary? Nagrand Vagrus' face twitched, as if recalling an unpleasant memory. Forget it. I can't afford to offend her. Chapter 1870. Nagrand Varglis came down from the windowsill and turned to look at them. I have the rubbing of the Book of Prometheus, Nagrand Varglis said. Since you have such a powerful background, the price you're offering shouldn't be low, right? Price? Do I still have to pay? Exionly asked, confused. How much do you want? My uncle gave me a credit card with a limit of $100,000. Nagrand Varglis rolled his eyes. Ruan Faxabin looked at Nagrand Varglis. Then what does the Earl want? Her blood, Nagrand Varglis said, pointing at Exionly. I'm afraid not. Her uncle will kill me. I just need a little, 1,000 milliliters. It's not much, right? It's okay, just 1,000 milliliters. I agree, Exionly said generously. Normally, 500 milliliters was enough for 2 donations. Exionly didn't think it would be a problem. Where's the rubbing? This girl's blood is only the first condition. There are 2 more. Any other requests? Ruan Faxben frowned. Previously, Exionly had exposed their goal in advance. It caused them to be very passive now. After all, they had a favor to ask. They could only accept Nagrand Varglis's request. I want a dragon's tooth, and a pure blood dragon's tooth at that. This. Ruan Faxi's face showed hesitation. But Exionly exposed herself again. That's it. I thought it was something else. We have plenty of dragon teeth. Exionly's tone was very arrogant. Nagrand Varglis raised an eyebrow. Plenty of dragon teeth? I'm talking about pure blood dragon teeth. Are you sure you have a lot? Not a lot. Ruan Faxben immediately interrupted Exionly. Exionly was too young. She didn't know how dangerous the world was. But we can still give you 1 dragon tooth, Ruan Faxben said. Do you have other parts of pureblood dragons? Nagrand Varglis asked. Yes, but you should also know how precious these things are. 1 dragon tooth is our bottom line. Don't expect us to pay more, Ruan Faxben said forcefully. All right, Nagrand Varglis rubbed his chin. The 3rd request is that there is a 2-headed ogre hibernating in the West Mountain Forest. I want you to bring the head of this 2-headed ogre to me. Earl, I'm an alchemist. I don't have much fighting power. My role is to babysit them. Now, you want me to bring these children to kill a 2-headed ogre? Don't you think it's too much? Ruan Faxben looked at Nagrand Varglis with righteous indignation. He glared at Nagrand Varglis indignantly, as if he had suffered a huge grievance. Actually, killing a twin-headed ogre was not completely unacceptable. But Ruan Faxi didn't want to accept it so easily. Moreover, the twin-headed ogre was not easy to kill. Ordinary ogres only had 1 head. They were just some bloodthirsty, greedy beasts with well-developed limbs and simple brains. However, among the ogres, there were rare twin-headed ogres. Not only did they possess high intelligence, but they also cultivated both physics and elemental energy. Not only did they have stronger bodies than ordinary ogres, but they also had powerful elemental magic. Coupled with their cunning nature, their fighting power was more than 10 times that of ordinary ogres. Didn't you say that these children have great influence? If you can't do it, you can ask the elders behind them. I believe they can definitely do it. Nagrand Varglis looked at Ruan Faxben as if it was a matter of course. They came out to train. If they contact their families because of this, then their training will be a complete failure. I will also be severely punished, so I don't think this is a good choice. That's your problem, Nagrand Varglis said mercilessly. Earl, we came with sincerity. If you ask for such a sky-high price, then we can't continue the discussion. Seeing Ruan Faxben's unyielding attitude, Nagrand Varglis couldn't help but wonder if his request was too much. However, when Nagrand Varglis saw Exionly's gaze, he suddenly realized that Ruan Faxi was trying to bargain with him. I don't think this request is too much. Earl, if any of these children are hurt, their elders won't just vent their anger on me, Ruan Faxben threatened. Nagrand Varglis was instantly unhappy. Ruan Faxben's words were clearly a threat. Do you think I'll be afraid? Do you know how many of my family members are in Edinburgh? Perhaps I'll be afraid in other places, but in my territory, no one can threaten me, not even the Scarlet Church or 23rd Blood Mary. Earl, Xian Lee's elders can affect not only 23rd Blood Mary, but also Taoist Master Zhang Tianyi of the Eastern Dragon Tiger Mound Celestial Master Sect. I believe Mr. Zhang will be very willing to travel to Edinburgh. Nagrand Varglas's expression changed slightly. Of course, he knew Zhang Tianyi's name. This name was even more famous than 23rd Blood Mary. Zhang Tianyi was known as the #1 in the spiritual world. He was also different from 23rd Blood Mary. It was said that 23rd Blood Mary was about to reach the end of her life. So Nagrand Varglas felt that 23rd Blood Mary would not be a threat as long as he delayed for a while. As for the Scarlet Church, if they really wanted to start an all-out war with him, as long as Edinburgh was the main battlefield, he was not afraid of any force. But Zhang Tianyi was different. He did not even need to come personally. He only needed to wave his hand. Many spiritualists were willing to work for him. The #1 in the spiritual world was not just for show. But Nagrand Varglas wouldn't give in so easily. His face was still filled with disdain. Say whatever you want. How do I know if you're telling the truth? You might as well say that you can make the Prime Minister trouble me. Earl, since you say so, then forget it. I hope you can still maintain this attitude in the Battle of the Holy Glory. Nagrand Varglas raised an eyebrow. This guy knew about the Battle of the Holy Glory. Those who knew about the Battle of the Holy Glory were definitely qualified to participate. And everyone who was qualified could not be underestimated, especially when they could influence the two strongest in the world. Chapter 1871. The Battle of Holy Glory was a feast for those at the top of the spiritual world. It was like the Football World Cup. Even Nagrand Varglas couldn't refuse this feast. Nagrand Varglas was also a frequent participant in the Battle of Holy Glory. But if the people behind them could influence the two strongest people in the world, then Nagrand Varglas would be in big trouble, especially when the Battle of Holy Glory arrived. If Zhang Tianyi and 23rd Blood Mary met him head-on, he wouldn't even have a place to hide. The spiritual world was a place where strength mattered. It followed the law of the jungle here. The strength of one's strength represented everything. If Zhang Tianyi and 23rd Blood Mary wanted to deal with one person at the same time, no one would dare to make a sound. And if these children were really in danger because of his request, or even died, then it would be a grudge that wouldn't end until one party died. In any era, killing someone else's junior or descendant would be a grudge that wouldn't end until one party died. Don't talk about a fair deal. No one would accept such an excuse. He would be the same, let alone the others. Then leave. Since you can't make a deal, you don't have to stay here. Xian Li looked at Ruan Faxbin anxiously. Reisa shouted, I'm going to kill the two-headed ogre. I'm going. Don't stop me. I can definitely kill the two-headed ogre. Reisa, calm down. The two-headed ogre isn't something we can deal with, Morse said, pulling the noisy Reisa aside. I'm not afraid of the two-headed ogre, Reisa shouted, stomping her feet. I don't care. I have to go. Ruan Faxbin's face darkened. He looked at Nagrand Varglas. Earl, if anything happens to them, you'll be in big trouble. You're blaming me for not keeping an eye on the children? Of course I won't blame you, Earl, but their elders might not be as reasonable as me. Nagrand Varglas was even more annoyed. What do you want? We can agree to the first two conditions, but the third one is big trouble for both of us. Give me another dragon tooth, Nagrand Varglas said. Actually, it was useless to have more dragon teeth, but Nagrand Varglas would not let Xian Li bleed anymore. After all, 1,000 milliliters of blood would have a certain effect on a human body. If there were any more, if something happened to the girl, that was the real problem. Ruan Faxi thought for a while and finally nodded. Okay. But Nagrand Varglas felt like he had been tricked. These are two dragon teeth. Where's the rubbing? Ruan Faxibin asked. In the British Museum, Nagrand Varglas said with a smile. What? Are you messing with me? Of course not. You can have as many copies as you want. The Book of Prometheus was donated by me to the British Museum, and the curator of the British Museum is my friend. So if I want to borrow and copy the book, it's just a matter of asking. Nagrand Varglas said disapprovingly. The Book of Prometheus was donated by me to the British Museum. Do you have equipment to draw blood here? Nagrand Varglas bared his fangs. Do you think a vampire needs equipment? Trust me, if you dare bite her, you won't live past tonight. All right, you guys go find the equipment to draw blood. Nagrand Varglas did not believe Ruan Faxaben's words, but he did not want to cause trouble. Let's trade tomorrow, Ruan Faxaben said. We'll give you the blood bags and the rubbing of the book of Prometheus. Do you want these 2 dragon teeth back? No, just take it as a deposit, Ruan Faxaben said. Aren't you afraid I won't pay? If you think the 2 dragon teeth are worth the risk, you can try. Ruan Faxaben left the castle with the 4 children. Faxaben, what did you think of my performance just now? Lisa asked proudly. Not bad, but a bit too much. You're already a teenager, but you acted like a child, Ruan Faxaben said. Ruan Faxburn said, you have such a high IQ. I think you should sign up for an acting class. My performance was so perfect. What's wrong with it? Lisa shouted angrily. Mr. Faxaben, we clearly have a lot of dragon teeth. Why don't we trade directly? And can't we beat a 2-headed ogre? Dragon teeth are worthless to us because they were obtained by your uncle. Your uncle has the ability to slay dragons, but others don't. That's why we need to control the number of dragon teeth on the market. If there are too many dragon teeth on the market, then the price will plummet. We'll still be the ones losing out, Ruan Faxaben explained patiently to Xian Li. Unlike Moore and Lisa, who were both smart and different from Colin's more complete worldview, Xian Li had always lived in her family's residential area. She had some contact with the outside world, but not much. Most of her contact was through television or computers. Therefore, she was still very naive and didn't understand these things at all. As for the 2-headed ogre, it's not easy to deal with, Ruan Faxaben said. Even if we're confident, we shouldn't deal with it ourselves. At least we need Nagrand Varglas to offer a higher price. Otherwise, we'll be working for nothing. But we only want the Book of Prometheus. We don't need anything else. The Book of Prometheus is written in ancient Greek. Can you understand it? Or do you think any of us can understand it? Can that vampire count read it? I don't know, but as an old monster who's lived for more than 200 years, he's definitely more knowledgeable than us. He's definitely more likely to understand ancient Greek. Okay, did I almost ruin things just now? Xian Li asked. Ruan Faxaben took a deep breath. Xian Li had indeed ruined things. If Xian Li hadn't interrupted, Ruan Faxaben was confident that he could get the rubbing at a lower price. But he definitely couldn't answer yes directly. If Xian Li was traumatized because of this, Chun Zhao would kill him. It's okay. This is why the president asked you to come out. You still have many things to learn. Mr. Faxaben, I promise I won't interrupt again, Xian Li said firmly. Chapter 1872. Old Zhang, can I ask you something? I don't have a ticket. I don't want a ticket. Then tell me, do you have an anonymous ticket? Anonymous my ass. The Battle of Holy Glory is such an honorable thing. Every participant wants their name above their head. Why do you want an anonymous ticket? What's in your head? Zhang Tianyi opened his mouth and spat at Chun Zhao, making Chun Zhao bleed. If you don't have one, then don't be so agitated. I'm hanging up. Wait. A few days ago, a mysterious expert appeared in Vietnam and killed that flood dragon. Did you do it? What flood dragon? That's just an eel, okay? Don't you know that scaled primates can turn into dragons? So what? I don't think that eel is that strong. That guy is from the Jun River. Do you know that after that eel? No. After you killed the flood dragon, the river flooded? Luckily, it's just a tributary of the Mekong River. Why didn't you tell me earlier? If that guy is so important, why didn't anyone stop Blood Mary when she listed it as a red mission? You're too late. That's because I've never thought that anyone could kill it. It has the power of the river. It's not an exaggeration to say that it's a water god. In that tributary, it's almost impossible to kill it. It has endless power. Chun Zhao thought about it. The big eel's recovery seemed to be really unusual. It was clearly weaker than Chun Zhao and Tamamo no Mei. However, its regenerative ability was astonishing. Chun Zhao had smashed its head with a punch, and it could still heal. This was more or less an immortal body, so it was because it had the power of a river. That river should be considered as its domain. If not for the Black Trident, Chun Zhao probably couldn't do anything to it. You took its beast core? What beast core? I don't know. Stop bullshitting. We met a few times. I've long noticed that you have the aura of lightning water. That eel. No, the flood dragon is also lightning water. You must have noticed its beast core, Zhang Tianyi said with certainty. Give me the water beast core. You're going too far. I risked my life to kill that eel, yet you're asking for half of the spoils of war right now. I'm helping you clean up. Zhang Tianyi cursed. That beast core is to create a new river god. Otherwise, that tributary will flood so much land. Do you know how many people will lose their homes? Chun Zhao gritted his teeth. He'd thought that he'd gotten rid of a disaster for the people. Give me another $1,000,000 and donate it to the local victims. I can give it, but I don't have money. I'm accumulating good karma for you. Even if you're not afraid of karma, you should think about your family and children. The debts you owe will affect your family. Chun Zhao thought for a moment. Could Joseph have been punished because of his sins? Okay, I suddenly feel sad when I think of the victims. Is $1,000,000 enough? Should I donate more? Chun Zhao paused. Then he asked, can accumulating good fortune bring good luck to my family too? Zhang Tianyi was speechless towards this bastard who wouldn't release the eagle without seeing the rabbit. I'll have someone from a North American embassy contact you. You just need to give it to them. Okay. Oh, do you need a secret code? For example, the Heavenly King covers the Earth Tiger, or the pagoda suppresses the river monster. I don't have time to talk to you. I have business to do. Just then, Chun Zhao heard a voice. Thank you for the Manchu Han Imperial Feast. Love you. This disrespectful old thing was watching the live stream of an online streamer again. Old Zhang, I need to put this donation to good use. Give me the receipt. If I find out that the money went to some streamer, I'll go to Dragon Tiger Mountain to ask for it personally. Who do you think I am? I'm doing it with a learning attitude to promote Taoism. You're also doing it with a learning attitude. It's called respecting the content of the show. Since it's learning, of course I have to pay. If you live stream subduing demons, you'll definitely have more than 1,000,000 fans. I want to, but if I dare to do that, I'll be sent to jail tomorrow for spreading futile thoughts. I'm hanging up. Chun Zhao couldn't be bothered to continue arguing with Zhang Tianyi. Not long after he hung up the phone, a car entered the territory of the Mingyue villa. A square-faced man walked up to Chun Zhao. He emitted surging magic power. Hello, you must be the Mr. Chun that my ancestor mentioned. I'm Yanghua. Chun Zhao looked at Yanghua with a, are you fucking kidding me? I'm not joking. Yanghua looked at Chun Zhao seriously. It was as if he had read Chun Zhao's unspoken words. It was definitely not his first time in such a situation. Can you tell me what you've been through? Because of this name, I hid abroad. Yanghua said gloomily. I thought that if I could interact with foreigners, I wouldn't have the troubles in China. Chun Zhao suddenly fell to gaze from the sky. Looking up, he saw a huge eagle circling in the sky. Yours? My ancestor gave it to me. He said that this eagle matches my name. Helplessness was also written all over Yanghua's face. Before I left, my ancestor said that I was still lacking and almost cut off my right arm. He didn't give you another wife. Why do you think he didn't give me one? You're also called Little Dragon Maiden? Dragon, Yanghua said. Take this and this check. Chun Zhao gave Yanghua the water elemental internal alchemy and a $2,000,000 check. Come visit me when you're free. Oh, you're welcome to come too. Chun Zhao really wanted to see if the legendary Little Dragon Maiden was also devastatingly beautiful. Yanghua looked away. He'd already seen through Chun Zhao's dirty thoughts. She's in China. Don't even think about it. I still have things to do, so I won't keep you. Hearing that he wouldn't have a chance to see Little Dragon Maiden, Chun Zhao instantly lost interest. He didn't even want to deal with Yanghua anymore. He directly asked him to leave. Yanghua glanced at the dragon head in the yard. Mr. Chun, you're really daring to put a dragon head in front of your house. You're not Chinese if you're afraid of death. The giant dragon race is famous for seeking revenge for the smallest grievance. I can only say that I respect you. Goodbye. Goodbye. Chun Zhao glanced at the dragon head in the yard. Should I put it away? Forget it. If I put it away now, I'll look cowardly. Anyway, if the giant dragon race really dared to come, he would just have to slay them again. Chapter 1873. Chun Zhao went to HQ. In Mayev's treatment room, Jig sat beside him, looking haggard. He stared at the sleeping Maiev in the container with lifeless eyes. Seeing Chun Zhao come in, Jigs immediately stood up. "Mr. Chun." Chun Zhao nodded and walked to the container. Mayev's injuries were very serious. She could even be said to be the most seriously injured patient Chun Zhao had ever seen in his career. No one else, even with normal treatment methods. Even Chun Zhao couldn't do anything about it. When Chun Zhao had brought her back to HQ, he basically picked up a corpse. If she'd been sent to the hospital, she probably wouldn't even have made it to the hospital. "Mr. Chun, how's Maiev?" "Not really good, but at least she's stabilized," Chun Zhao said. Actually, Maev's biggest problem was still psychological. However, this had nothing to do with Chun Zhao. After Chun Zhao healed her, Jigs would be responsible for her psychological trauma. Chun Zhao started draining the liquid in the container. Then, he took over the container and filled it with new water. Maiev had already absorbed all the essence in the container. He had to pour in new perfect demonic crystals. Jigs couldn't help either. He could only worry on the side. Chun Zhao saw that Jigs would be very uneasy if he didn't do anything. "Come and reconnect these devices," Chun Zhao said. Jigs immediately came to help after receiving the order. After changing the water, Chun Zhao said to Jigs, "Go rest. I think you're in a bad state." Chun Zhao looked at the container before him and the complicated devices around it. Could these instruments and the container itself be combined, instead of being put together in such a crude way as they were now? Just the messy wires were enough to make Chun Zhao very uncomfortable. Of course, Chun Zhao didn't understand machinery and technology. He needed to ask Jolig. He told Jolig his request and thoughts. As for whether Jolig could satisfy his needs, Chun Zhao wasn't sure. "Mr. Chun, how long will Maiev need to be healed?" "At least a month," Chun Zhao said. How much can she heal?" "Her external injuries will be completely healed," Chun Zhao said. "Can I really?" "The real problem is her psychological trauma," Chun Zhao said. "You can only rely on yourself." "I can't help." Jigs nodded in understanding. "You really should go and rest. Otherwise, it's very likely that she'll cure you, but you'll collapse." "I will." Although Jigs said so, he had no intention of resting. Chun Zhao didn't force it. No matter what, it was his own business. Chun Zhao walked out and turned left. He found Jolig's warehouse. Jolig's lab was as messy as Ruan Faxbin's. Everything had been thrown away haphazardly. The amazing thing was that they always knew where the thing they were looking for was. But once someone was kind enough to help them clean up, they would go crazy and they wouldn't be able to find anything. At this moment, Jolig was wearing a pair of sunglasses as he welded. He seemed to be doing some mechanical design again. Chun Zhao's arrival didn't stop Jolig's work until Jolig's welding was complete. Only then did Chun Zhao speak. "Jolig." "Ah, President, when did you arrive?" "I just arrived." "What are you doing?" "Giselle's new equipment," Jolig said. "When do you have time to help me make an instrument?" Chun Zhao told him his idea. "Can it be done?" "It's not hard. Actually, I just need to integrate those instruments and install them on the container. Then I'll do some cosmetic changes to avoid some safety issues." What Chun Zhao was worried about were the technical problems. Actually, there weren't any technical problems at all. Chun Zhao's request was simple. It was a combination, not an innovation. But he wasn't in a hurry to use it for now. Chun Zhao wanted to prepare some medical equipment for emergencies. After all, the spiritual world was a high-risk job. Chun Zhao stayed in the headquarters for 2 hours. Everyone was preparing for the next African trip. Chun Zhao would be a hindrance if he stayed. So, he left the headquarters early. "I wonder how Raymond is doing." Chun Zhao checked the time. There were still 3 hours until Fei Lai got off work. While he still had time, he went to Stevens Forest. When he reached the foot of the mountain, he saw 2 bicycles by the road. Weird. Why are there 2 bicycles here? Confused, Chun Zhao walked up the mountain. When he reached the top, he heard cries for help. "Help! Help!" Chun Zhao looked in the direction of the sound. 2 kilometers away, there were 2 kids hugging a big tree. They kept shouting and waving their hands, hoping to attract Chun Zhao's attention. But Chun Zhao pretended not to hear or see them. Of course, Normal people couldn't see or hear them from such a distance. 3 or 4 crocodiles were sunbathing under the tree. The 2 kids weren't in danger anyway. Chun Zhao wasn't in a hurry to save them. Reinen, it's useless. That man can't hear us. Jess, what do we do? I don't want to die here. Ever since the last time, Jess and Reinen had been hoping to get a picture of the monster. Then, they snuck here and hid in the tree with enough equipment and food. They planned to fight a long battle here. They thought that the monster should be amphibious and wouldn't climb trees. But soon after they climbed up, a group of crocodiles came. The crocodiles didn't notice them. Instead, it was because there was plenty of sunlight here. They were sunbathing under the tree. This lasted for 2 days. The crocodiles didn't leave completely. After one left, another group came. This also caused the 2 of them to be trapped on the tree. This caused the 2 of them to be trapped in the tree for 2 days. They ate, drank, and pooped on the tree. They couldn't sleep at all. They were afraid that they would fall down if they fell asleep. At first, they hoped that Frank would come again. But after 2 days, Frank still didn't come. There was no signal here at all. Their phones were all out of battery in 2 days. This made them sink into despair. Just then, the person came, but the tree they were hiding in was a bit off the road. As a result, the person didn't hear their cries at all. They didn't know that Chun Zhao did it on purpose. Chun Zhao didn't know who the 2 kids were. If they didn't have anything to do with Stephen, he would call the police after they went down the mountain. 9 Heaven's Divine Emperor. Chapter 1874. Chun Zhao's small world spread out. It covered more than half of the lake. There were clearly fewer crocodiles here. There were probably less than 1/10 of the entire lake now. However, the fewer they were, the harder it was to clear them out. Chun Zhao looked at the lake. Then he took off his clothes and dove into the water. Reinen and Jess cried out again on the treetops in the distance. There were water monsters and crocodiles in the water. Going into the water was suicide, but the man clearly couldn't hear them. He still dove into the water. Soon, Chun Zhao sank into the water. He didn't come up again. It was obvious that the man must have been killed. He was either eaten by a water monster or drowned by a crocodile. Chun Zhao had indeed been bitten by a crocodile. Chun Zhao dove into the water and pinched the crocodile that bit him to death. Just then, Raymond sensed Chun Zhao's arrival and swam over. "Master, let's work harder and kill all these bugs," Raymond complained. "These crocodiles are too disgusting. That asterisk shoal Frank hasn't come for the past 2 days. If I see him again, I'll eat him." "Fine." Chun Zhao opened up the small world completely. Everything inside was within his perception. Then he started hunting the crocodiles. With Raymond and Chun Zhao working together, the hunting speed was even faster. As long as the small world enveloped them, the crocodiles had nowhere to hide. Chun Zhao and Raymond could accurately track the crocodiles' movements. They didn't even let the baby crocodiles go. Chun Zhao also destroyed their eggs. After 30 minutes, they finally cleared all the crocodiles. "Raymond, I'll come pick you up at night." "Okay." It wasn't convenient to move during the day. Reinen and Jess in the distant tree suddenly saw the man who had disappeared from the lake for half an hour float to the surface of the water again. How is that possible? How is he still alive? Did he die for a long distance and we didn't notice him? Impossible. We could see a large area from here. If he came up from somewhere else, he can't escape our sight. But that's the truth. A normal person can't stay underwater for more than 30 minutes without breathing. But there are water monsters and crocodiles in the water. Didn't they attack his mom? Reinen asked, confused. Maybe it's because his luck is better. "Hey, he's coming in our direction. Oh no, look below us." Just then, the 2 crocodiles under the tree climbed into the water. They had obviously discovered their prey. "Don't come over. Don't come over." "Crocodile. There are crocodiles in the water." Suddenly, the man dived into the water again. Not long after, a patch of red rose from the water. "It's over. That man is dead for sure." After killing the crocodile in the water, Chun Zhao used a rock to press the carcass to the bottom of the lake. If it floated up, it would be very disgusting if it was left to rot without any treatment. If they were left at the bottom of the lake, they would be digested by the biological system in the lake. They would truly return in nature. While Jared and Jess were in a mess, Chun Zhao had logged back in. When Jess and Rhinan saw Chun Zhao, their faces were filled with astonishment. How could this guy still be alive? That's impossible, right? Where are the two crocodiles? Just then, the two crocodiles under the tree charged at him. Crocodile. The crocodile is coming towards you. At such a close distance, Chun Zhao could no longer pretend not to hear. On land, crocodiles weren't as slow as people thought. In fact, crocodiles had very strong sprinting abilities and speed. On land, they also had very fast short-distance explosive power. One crocodile charged at Chun Zhao first. Chun Zhao jumped lightly and grabbed the crocodile's tail. Then he threw it over his shoulder and smashed it onto the other crocodile. Both crocodiles were taken care of in one move. The two kids on the tree were dumbfounded. So simple. It ended just like that. Chun Zhao looked up at Jared and Jess on the tree. Are you two playing hide and seek? Chun Zhao pouted. Fine, I won't disturb you anymore. You guys continue. With that, Chun Zhao turned and left. After taking his clothes, he went down the mountain directly. Jared and Jess hurried down the tree, but when they reached the ground, Chun Zhao had already left. That man is so strong, Jared whispered. Let's leave quickly. It's too dangerous here. Steven, I just went to your lake. Aren't you being too irresponsible? I gave Raymond to you, but you let him starve. Raymond told me that you haven't given him food for 2 days. Sorry, it's my fault. Frank got into an accident 2 days ago. I forgot about it. Accident? What happened to him? He got into a car accident and broke his leg. He's recovering in the hospital. He can't get out of bed for at least half a month. Oh, will there be any side effects? If he's well, probably not, Steven said helplessly. I'll have Fantas bring food to Raymond now. No need. I just cleaned up all the crocodiles for you. Later, have Fantas bring Raymond to my house. You're done? I confirmed it myself. It's very clean. Chun Zhao didn't plan on blaming Steven. After all, there was a reason. Steven didn't do it on purpose. Oh, 2 high school students were trapped at the lake just now. Luckily, I came, or they'd be food for the crocodiles. High school students? Frank told me before that he saw a few kids going up the mountain. He even made up a story about monsters. I was going to have him put up a sign at the foot of the mountain, but he got into a car accident and forgot about it. Oh, was Frank's car accident an accident? Probably. It's better to be careful. Some criminals will target the bodyguards first when they target rich people. That's true. What should I do? How about you bring Raymond to your house for a few days? Chun Zhao asked. As for traveling, tell Fantas not to leave your side. How about, don't even think about moving to my house. You're not welcome there. Do you have to be so stingy? Why are you so petty? We are brothers. Fuck you. I don't have a brother as big as you. Also, did you forget that you took tens of millions of dollars worth of wine from my house last time? I left a note. You even gave the note to little Larissa and made her put it in her mouth. That's your fault. You didn't teach little Larissa well. Chapter 1875. Here's 1,000 milliliters of Xin Li's blood. Ruan Faxbin threw a blood bag to Nagran Vagris. Nagran Vagris held the blood bag and took a deep breath, even though it was separated by the material. Even though it was through the material, Nagran Vagris seemed to be able to smell the blood inside. He took an intoxicated breath and then put the blood bag away in satisfaction. That's right, it's the girl's blood. Then what about the thing we want? Nagran Vagris took out a rubbing from the safe. But this rubbing was not printed with a printer like everyone imagined. It was printed in a very ancient way, and there were only a few pieces of paper. How did this happen? Ruan Faxben frowned and looked at the coarse paper in his hand. There was still ink on it. Many of the contents were very vague. In this era, even spiritualists wouldn't use such a primitive method of copying. In Ruan Faxben's opinion, Nagran Vagris was deliberately making things difficult for them. The Book of Prometheus is a few big stones. I can't hold a few stones and put them on the printer to print, right? I can only use ink to make a rubbing. Stones? Of course. Don't you know? The original version of the Book of Prometheus is a few heavy stones. But we've been to the British Museum. The exhibits, they're not stones at all. That's fake, Nagrand said calmly. The real Book of Prometheus is just a few stones. I have no reason to lie to you. Fine. Ruan Faxbin did not want to argue anymore. He looked at Nagrand and said, Count, do you know ancient Greek? It's very expensive for me to translate, and I don't like to be threatened. This time, Nagrand said the ugly part first. After all, he had been threatened a few days ago, so he had to back down. Zhang Tianyi and the 23rd Blood Mary were too famous and illustrious. Even if he could not guarantee that they were related to these two, Nagrand did not want to be enemies with them. But he was unwilling. After all, he was not a charity. He was not related to them and always used them to threaten him. No matter who the other party was, it was unbearable. So Nagrand made up his mind not to back down. Tell me your conditions, Sir Count. I still have the same request. Help me kill the twin-headed ogre. Just then, Ruan took out a small bottle. After opening the bottle, he flipped it over. 2 small balls rolled out from inside. Ruan Faxbin sprinkled some magic powder on the ball. In an instant, the 2 balls turned into 2 huge heads. These 2 heads were several times the size of an ordinary person. The bloody head rolled to the ground. Nagrand raised an eyebrow and went forward to check. It really was that hateful twin-headed ogre. They actually killed the twin-headed ogre? Nagrand looked at Ruan Faxbin in bewilderment. Did he do it, or was it the power behind them? Nagrand had been fighting this 2-headed ogre for more than 100 years. Neither side could do anything to the other. But in this case, Nagrand had suffered a huge loss. Because in the past 100 years, he had lost hundreds of subordinates or family members, and almost all of them had become food for the twin-headed ogre. This twin-headed ogre was different from ordinary ogres. He would directly attack anyone he saw. This twin-headed ogre understood the rules of humans and would not attack ordinary people at all. Even if he ran out of food, he would at most attack the cows and sheep in the nearby farms. So even though the government knew of the existence of this twin-headed ogre, they ignored him. They were even happy to see Nagrand and this twin-headed ogre fight each other. Of course, Nagrand knew the sinister intentions of the government, but he had no other choice. This twin-headed ogre was not only powerful, but he also never left the mountains. In the past, he had led teams into the mountains to surround him. Most of them fell into his traps and died. Nagrand strength was only on par with this twin-headed ogre. Neither had the strength to kill the other. This made Nagrand think of relying on outsiders to eliminate the twin-headed ogre. Of course, even if he made a request to Ruan Faxbin and the others, he did not think that Ruan Faxbin and the others could solve it. From his point of view, it would be best if he could attract the people behind them to make a move. But he did not expect that Ruan Faxbin would directly throw this cunning twin-headed ogre's head in front of him. Nagrand thought again. If it was the people behind them, they had entered Edinburgh's territory without him noticing. This meant that the other party's strength was not to be underestimated. After all, Edinburgh was his territory. However, the other party was able to come and disappear without a trace. If they could kill this twin-headed ogre without a sound, then they most likely had the ability to kill him too. This made Nagrand wary of Ruan Faxbin and the others. We have fulfilled your request. Now, it's time for you to carry out your duty. Ruan Faxbin smiled at Nagrand. These 2 heads should be enough to intimidate the other party. You need to wait here for a while, Nagrand said. I need time to translate. This Book of Prometheus was yours in the past. Have you not translated it at all? Do you know what the literacy rate was in ancient Greece? Does your question have anything to do with your translation of the Book of Prometheus? It's 0, 1%. In that era, ancient Greece had a population of millions, but only a few thousand people could read. Most of them were spiritualists, and only a few were nobles. Nagrand said, and those nobles only knew the simplified version of the ancient Greek language. I still don't understand. Ancient Greek characters contain a mysterious power. This mysterious power cannot be translated and can only be identified through specific magic. In the past, when I had the Book of Prometheus, I only translated the simplified version. Only after I had a breakthrough in my strength did I realize that I had neglected the true content of the Book of Prometheus. How long will that take? I'm not sure, Rendezvous said. Identifying the mysterious Greek language requires a huge amount of magic. Chapter 1876. Does that mean I can translate the Book of Prometheus as long as I master this recognition spell? Of course, it's not that simple. You also have to master Ancient Greek. Recognition spells and Ancient Greek are both necessary. Then give me a specific time. It's a long process, Rendezvous said slowly. I can't rush it, but we won't be in England for long. I can't do anything about that. How about this? I'll inform my superior and ask him to invite you to our place to translate. Trust me, we can provide you with a stable and quiet environment. You can translate there without worry. Rendezvous's face darkened. Ruan Facilis was using this again. But this time, Rendezvous was helpless too. After all, he had received their payment. It was useless even if he wanted to go back on his word. Ruan Facilis had clearly predicted that Rendezvous would bring up the past again. He didn't give him a chance to go back on his word. This translation is really complicated. There's no room for mistakes. 7 days at most. If you can't finish in 7 days, I can only call my superior. You're making things difficult for me. But you're making things difficult for me too. Ruan Facilis had a smile on his face. He knew people like Rendezvous very well. If he didn't force him, if he wasn't forceful, he would be the one to take the initiative. Ruan Facilis knew very well that they wouldn't get Chun Zhao support for this risky operation. Chun Zhao hoped that they would run into trouble halfway and then return dejectedly. But Ruan Facilis and Lisa would definitely be punished by Chun Zhao. After all, they were the ones who started this. The only thing they could do now was to borrow Chun Zhao's power. They could only threaten Rendezvous with groundless threats. Nevertheless, Ruan Facilis wasn't afraid that Rendezvous would really ask for proof. After all, Blood Mary of Wendao, 23, and Zhang Tianyi of Dragon Tiger Mountain wouldn't be exposed. They definitely wouldn't give themselves away. Plus, Ruan Facilis was very confident. Rendezvous didn't dare to really ask for proof. I can return 1 dragon tooth to you. Hand over the money, hand over the goods. There's no reason to return the commission you've paid. Ruan Faxi was a veteran. How could he let Rendezvous go back on his word? If Rendezvous really dared to break the rules, Ruan Faxi would really call Chun Zhao and kill this old monster, even if it meant destroying everything. A week is too short, Rendezvous said. It wasn't that he didn't have a way, he just didn't want to pay such a huge price. Use recognition spell to identify the ancient Greek characters in the Book of Prometheus. It required too much mana. If Rendezvous really translated all the content in a week, he wouldn't be able to do it. In that case, he would become a cripple. If the other party offered a high enough price, he could even stay in bed for half a year. However, the price that the other party had offered was merely to meet his standards. Even if they did, they wouldn't be able to earn much. Why don't you let me bite this girl, and I promise to translate it for you in a week. Count, I don't like to joke around. I don't like to joke around either. The price you're offering isn't enough. What else do you want? Nothing. A month, Rendezvous said. It can't be shortened. 10 days, at most 10 days. Ruan Faxi only took a small step back. In the end, the two bargained for a while and agreed on 15 days. Rendezvous might be a noble, but he was very low-key most of the time. After all, to humans, he was an anomaly. He tried out a fight if he could. He also didn't want to have a grudge with others, especially when the other party's identity was unknown and he was very powerful. Ruan Faxi didn't want to force him too much either. After all, he was just using his connections to intimidate others. Thus, both sides took a small step back. After Ruan Faxban left with his men, Rendezvous looked at the rubbing of the Book of Prometheus and immediately felt a headache coming on. Translating the Book of Prometheus was also a big problem. The ancient Greek characters were divided into simplified version and mysterious version. In ancient Greece, most nobles only learned the simplified version. The mysterious version required one to learn the simplified version and be proficient in special recognition spells. Then they could be translated with recognition spells. Before Rendezvous donated the original version of the Book of Prometheus, he had translated it once. But at that time, he wasn't strong enough and didn't have recognition spells. Therefore, what he translated was only a simplified version. Later on, he inadvertently mastered a special identification spell. It was only when he saw the original Book of Prometheus in the British Museum that he realized that he had missed out on something. But to activate the recognition spell, it required a huge amount of magic power. Rendezvous didn't think of translating it again. After all, it was a thankless task. But this time, he could only brace himself to translate. Famtis sent Raymond to Stephen's villa. Evan immediately dodged Raymond. He had seen Raymond before, but at that time, Raymond was just a small snake. Now, Raymond was more than 10 times his size. Even though the smell was similar, Evan still didn't dare to approach Raymond. Stephen came out to greet Raymond in his big pants. Raymond dashed out of the container. Stephen and Raymond greeted each other. "Raymond, I'm sorry for starving you for 2 days." Raymond curled up into a ball and ignored Stephen, sunbathing by the pool. Judging from Raymond's appearance, he was clearly holding a grudge against him. Stephen changed the topic awkwardly. "Famtis, go get Raymond some food." Stephen also wanted a pet like Raymond. Not only was he smart, but he was also unique. Stephen sat beside Raymond. Raymond's cold body made him feel very comfortable. Raymond's body was also very soft. It wasn't as hard as leaning against a rock. Famtis also brought Evan here every day. Stephen also liked to rest against Evan's body. But different from Raymond's body, Evan's body temperature was quite high. It wasn't suitable for him to lean on for too long. Especially in LA in October, the weather was rather dry and warm. In winter, there was basically heating indoors. Stephen had a lot of trust in E1 after interacting with her for so long. Of course, Evan was just a regular jaguar. He was still very different from the pets at home. Chapter 1877. Chun Zhao's family gathered together for dinner. Only Xian Li's seat was empty, but they still turned on the video call so that Xian Li could watch them eat. "Xian Li, how's your progress?" "Not bad. We found the original owner of the Book of Prometheus, but because the book is in ancient Greek, we're waiting for the translation." "Ancient Greek? I know someone who knows ancient Greek. Do you need me to contact her?" Chun Zhao remembered that the 23rd blood Mary knew ancient Greek. If Xian Li needed it, he could help her contact her. "No need. I want to find the golden apple step by step." Xian Li bit the apple in her hand. "Is this your dinner?" Chun Zhao asked. "Is there a limit on that credit card? Do you need me to increase it?" "This is supper." Xian Li looked at the sumptuous dinner in the video and gulped. "Uncle, you're tempting me to eat supper. It's okay. It's good to be able to eat, especially for a kid your age. Plus, if you get fat, I can personally arrange a weight loss plan for you." "Sister Xian Li, do you have good food at your place?" Jerlin asked. Xian Li's cheeks twitched. The worst thing about England was the climate and food. Edinburgh wasn't too bad. When they stayed in London, their jackets had to be waterproof. If it was a cotton coat, they would be a few kilograms heavier. As for English food, she just had sandwiches, burgers, fries, roast meat, and some vegetable salad every day. She'd even fantasized about trying world-famous food and looking up at the starry sky. But it was definitely not a beautiful experience of eating delicious food. "Sister Xian Li, when are you coming back? Remember to bring good food for Jerlin." Jerlin looked at Xian Li in the video with big, watery eyes. Me too, me too." Little Larissa also shouted. She was still in Failai's arms, but she was the most passionate about food. Little Larissa had learned many new words recently. She had learned a few common words. She had to admit that Larissa's talent in languages was better than Jerlin's. However, Jerlin's talent in swimming was much better than Larissa's. "Did anyone bully you?" "No, uncle. Don't think the outside world is so dark. We haven't fought a single battle yet. Is it true? Chen Zhao asked casually. But Chen Zhao's tone gave Xin Li a lot of pressure. After all, Xin Li didn't know if Ruan and the others would report it to Chen Zhao. Actually, there was a battle, but I didn't do anything. That battle was to find and kill the twin-headed ogre. Riisa was the only one who made a move, so she didn't have the chance to intervene. Big sister Xin Li, Dad brought back a lot of eels a few days ago. They're very delicious. You have to come back soon, or else there won't be any left to eat. Little Galin said very seriously. Xin Li remembered that when Chen Zhao brought Didi around the world and arrived in Edinburgh, Didi had told her that the water monster they'd encountered in Vietnam's Mekong River was a super large eel. Xin Li, give me your address. I'll mail you some cooked eel meat. Uncle, it's okay. Apart from the taste, the eel meat can also increase your magic slightly. Okay. At night, Chen Zhao rose into the sky again for a day of cultivation. But before long, Chen Zhao was harassed by the American Air Force again. The Americans seemed to have figured out how to find Chen Zhao. Recently, he had been discovered by the American Air Force about 1/3 of the time. As a result, Chen Zhao never flew into the sky at his house. He would often run a distance away. Moreover, he would be in a different location every time. In order to prevent the Americans from figuring out his location through his movements, Chen Zhao didn't plan his activity area at all. Every day, he cultivated in a random location. But being harassed during cultivation wasn't a pleasant experience. Hey, old Zhang, why are you calling me at this time? It should be afternoon in China. Am I disturbing you? No, I'm just curious why you're calling me at this time. Don't you sleep at night? Remember the divine hit you taught me last time? I'm in trouble. What trouble? Going crazy? You won't go crazy with a divine hit, right? No, it's just that every time I use it, I'll be discovered by the American military satellites. Then they'll chase after me. Then what do you want to do? Shouldn't you provide after-sales service? I have a way, but I can't move. If I do, I'll be exposed. What way? Are you coming to the Battle of Holy Glory? That's boring. Cut the crap. Are you coming or not? Let me think about it. I have a lot of business. My business isn't business. Yes, you have business too, but I'm really not interested. I'm asking your subordinates to participate, not you. I won't let you participate even if you want to. Then I'll choose a few people. One organization can choose 10 people, Zhang Tianyi said. Okay. Chen Zhao planned to just find a few random people to deal with them. Oh, the Mekong River's flood is under control. Your money has been donated to the disaster area, Zhang Tianyi said. You can create a water god so quickly? Chen Zhao asked curiously. The main thing is to find a powerful monster and get it to him. At the very least, it will be able to replace the original flood dragon in a short period of time. However, it will probably take a few years for it to completely absorb the inner core. Are there a lot of these mountain, water, and earth gods in China? Not many, and there aren't any mountain or earth gods, only water gods, Zhang Tianyi said. The big rivers in China all have water gods, but they're all managed by monster organizations. Monster organizations? The only officially recognized organization is the Monster Alliance. There are also some smaller monster organizations, but you're not in China anymore. Do you plan on coming back to develop? Forget it, Chen Zhao said. With my power, I could be a monkey king in North America. If I go back to China, I might be taken care of by some old monster that pops out of nowhere. But can monsters coexist peacefully with humans? I'm curious. Why not? Didn't you also have a demon blade as your subordinate? Chapter 1878. That's right. Chen Zhao smiled. His way of thinking was a bit extreme. Since he could raise a bunch of demons, why couldn't other people live peacefully with them? Plus, he'd accepted the demon blade service. After interacting with the blade, Chen Zhao understood. Be it demons or demons, they all had their own feelings and thoughts. They weren't cold-killing machines. Their personalities were largely determined by their living or growing environment. How do I hide my aura? This is a method I developed myself. I call it heaven and man coexistence. It's to use a small world to hide your aura. Even when you're not moving, You can make your small world completely blend with the surroundings. Even a naked eye will have a visual deviation. How do I do it exactly? Chen Zhao asked. Have you tried to make your small world exchange spiritual qi with the outside world at an extremely fast speed? No. You can give it a try. Not everyone who has reached our realm can use this method, because increasing the speed of the exchange of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth means that the pressure on the body will be greater. I've cultivated the spirit bash, so my body is stronger than ordinary spiritualists. You're an enhancer, so you'll definitely be able to do it. However, that old witch, Blood Mary, can't do it. Back then, I taught her step by step, but she couldn't learn it. Zhang Tianyi paused, then added, it's like dropping a drop of oil into a basin of water. The oil will be very obvious in the basin, but if the whole basin of water is continuously stirred, then the oil will disappear from the field of vision. This is a visual deviation caused by physics. For military satellites, which can detect high-energy reactions, it's also effective. Because the huge flow of spiritual energy of heaven and earth has disturbed an area, the military satellites can't detect you. That was the theory, but it wasn't easy to do. Chen Zhao found a region and tried this method. He started to speed up the exchange of spiritual qi. At first, he didn't dare to speed up too much, but he realized that it was just as Zhang Tianyi said. Chen Zhao didn't feel too much pressure. Then he doubled the speed of the exchange of spiritual qi. He still didn't feel uncomfortable. 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. Chen Zhao didn't feel uncomfortable until he was more than 10 times faster. Old Zhang, how many times can you speed up? I can probably accelerate to about 5 times, Old Zhang said. Chen Zhao calculated in his mind. His strong body was indeed more advantageous. It was about 15 times the normal speed. Chen Zhao only felt a little uncomfortable. He didn't need to experience extreme speed, because Old Zhang's 5 times speed was enough. His energy was definitely higher than Old Zhang's, but his speed was still enough. Chen Zhao was hiding in the sky. At the moment, he was almost completely invisible. Of course, his invisibility wasn't complete. Actually, it was still visible to the naked eye. If the military satellites overhead happened to be watching him, he would still be discovered. But this possibility was even lower than the possibility of winning the lottery. How big is the Earth? Even if Chen Zhao waited for 100 years and gave the Americans a rough location, their military satellites might not be able to find him. Plus, Chen Zhao couldn't just stand there and wait. Even if there was a small probability that it would be discovered by the American military satellites. Chen Zhao could also change places, so Zhang Tianyi's method basically solved Chen Zhao's problem. Oh, Chen Zhao, you have an alchemist under you, right? You can ask your subordinate to make a magic tool that can hide your aura. When you face a strong opponent, you need to unleash your full power, but your aura might expose your true strength and make the opponent wary. If you have this magic tool, even if you unleash your full power, your true strength won't be exposed. Then the opponent will be numb. Have you used this before? Chen Zhao asked. I used a long time ago, but after I broke through to Shangqing, I didn't have the chance anymore. Almost everyone in the spiritual world knows me. I don't even need to unleash my full power. My enemy will be on guard. Zhang Tianyi's tone was filled with disappointment. I don't know if my subordinate knows how to make it. It's not difficult, but the process is a bit complicated. If your subordinate says he doesn't know, he's definitely just brushing you off. You can teach him a lesson. Chen Zhao thought about it. With Ruan Faxi's personality, he would probably brush him off like Zhang Tianyi said. After a night, Chen Zhao learned heaven and man coexistence. After that, he wasn't harassed by the American Air Force anymore. It seemed like this move was really good. But Chen Zhao also discovered a problem. When he used this move, it would cause the air to flow violently. It was like a super typhoon. Heaven and man coexistence couldn't be used at home. Of course, it could also be used as a wind elemental attack spell. But for people like Chen Zhao and Zhang Tianyi, this attack spell was really useless. With their strength, this move was useless against enemies weaker than them or enemies of the same level as them. It was impossible to defeat a powerful enemy with just a storm. Of course, heaven and man coexistence's effect was the same as wind elemental magic. It actually had nothing to do with it. In fact, this storm was just a byproduct of heaven and man coexistence. Chun Zhao's current 1,000-meter small world could almost create a small super typhoon. It sounded powerful and could affect the weather in a small area. But in reality, this move was also useless against normal people. Chun Zhao's abilities weren't used to create disasters for normal people. Chun Zhao's heart jumped. Since Zhang Tianyi could develop a use for the small world, there might be other uses for it. Maybe he could develop other uses for it too. But just then, the sun rose. Chun Zhao put away God's strike and quickly descended. Because of the difference in altitude, he could see the sun in the sky, but it was still night down below. Because of the difference in altitude, he could see the sun in the sky, but it was still night down below. Using the remaining time, Chun Zhao moved around in the ocean for another hour. Only then did the sun rise. When Chun Zhao returned home, the underlings were already preparing breakfast. Seeing that Chun Zhao had returned, he immediately brought some prepared food to Chun Zhao. Chapter 1879. A while later, the family woke up one after another. Early in the morning, Portia came over. "Portia, you're really early today." Chun Zhao glanced at Portia, who had rushed over. "You didn't eat breakfast, right? Come and eat with us." Portia didn't stand on ceremony. She sat down and started eating. It wasn't her first time anyway. "I don't think I told you to come so early yesterday. I'm here for breakfast." Everyone stared at Portia speechlessly. Portia was very calm. "During the last interview, I maxed out my credit card to prepare the clothes for the interview." "You don't have money on you?" "I only have enough money for gas," Portia said calmly. "Do you want me to lend you some?" Chun Zhao asked. "No need. I plan to eat and drink at your place. I don't have any other expenses." Portia was determined not to borrow money from Chun Zhao. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to pay back the money she owed. To be honest, the cost of living in Los Angeles was really high. Portia decided to grit her teeth and persevere. "What about your water, electricity, and insurance?" "The water and electricity stopped a long time ago," Portia said. "Unlike in China, even if one owed water and electricity, it could usually last for a few months. The water company and electricity bureau wouldn't necessarily cut off the water and electricity. In America, if you owed water and electricity for a month, the electricity company and water company would make you go back to primitive society." Chun Zhao couldn't imagine that kind of life. However, he wouldn't pity Portia. To put it bluntly, Portia was reaping what she had sown. It was obvious just by looking at her crazy spending when she was in Japan. Moreover, it wasn't the first time Portia maxed out her credit card for an audition. Chun Zhao never approved of pursuing dreams without caring about anything. To him, the prerequisite for pursuing dreams was to support oneself first. "Portia, are you sure you don't want me to lend you money?" "Boss, you sound like a demon. I won't lend you money again." Chun Zhao didn't borrow money for free. He had to pay interest. Portia's monthly interest on the money she owed him was $700 to $800. Of course, it was even scarier if the bank debt was included. Although Chun Zhao gave Portia a high weekly salary, Portia's salary was very high. However, with Portia's extravagant spending habits, she still couldn't make ends meet. In fact, with Portia's salary, she would be considered a high-income person in any country or region in the world. However, Portia still lived her life as a member of the Moonlight Clan. However, this was also the consumption concept of most Americans. Spend in advance, enjoy in advance. The price was a huge debt. Of course, Portia's spending couldn't compare to Chun Zhao's. But no matter what he spent, it was all in cash. Chun Zhao had a credit card, but he basically paid it on time. All of Chun Zhao's expenses were within the amount of his bank account. Of course, Chun Zhao would not criticize Portia, because they had different ideas. Therefore, there was no right or wrong. It was the consumption concept that was nurtured by the environment of the two countries. "Portia, help me make an appointment with Felwood Cisco. Ask him to come to Mingyue Villa." "Oh, okay." Portia hurriedly wiped her mouth and stood up to call Felwood Cisco. But there was no response. After a while, Portia looked at Chun Zhao awkwardly. Boss, can you lend me $20? On my phone bill. Chun Zhao was speechless. He took out $100 in cash. Boss, I want to charge my phone bill. How do I top up if you give me cash? Never mind. Chun Zhao helped Portia top up her phone bill with $100. Hello, Mr. Fellwood. I'm Portia, Mr. Chin's assistant. Hello, Ms. Portia. How can I help you? Mr. Chin asked you to come to Mingwe Villa today. Are you free? I'm free. Of course I'm free. Fellwood accepted without any hesitation. He did not care why Chun Zhao wanted to see him. Even if Chun Zhao wanted to chat with him, Fellwood would come. Fellwood came very quickly. Chun Zhao had not even eaten the table yet. Fellwood, you haven't eaten breakfast yet, right? Come and eat with us. Then I won't stand on ceremony. Fellwood had worked with Chun Zhao many times, so they were rather familiar. At the table, Fellwood Cisco asked, Mr. Chun, may I know why you called me here? I have a friend who wants your company to build a new house for him. It's my honor. Fellwood was very happy. Chun Zhao didn't just ask him to build his house. He even introduced his friend to him. This was a very valuable resource for him to build connections with. He'll be here soon. Wait a moment. Okay, I'm not in a hurry. Fellwood nodded. Wait here for a moment. If you need anything, tell Portia. I need to do some morning exercise. Of course. Please help yourself. Fellwood Cisco was no stranger to this place. After all, he'd built the house. Fellwood came to the front yard and saw Chun Zhao swimming in the sea. The children, on the other hand, were playing without any worries. This was the life of a rich person. Mr. Fellwood, would you like something to drink? Portia walked up and asked. I seem to have eaten too much for breakfast. Pour me a cup of black tea. Okay, please wait a moment. A while later, Portia came over with the black tea. Thank you, Ms. Portia. Is that Mr. Chin's yacht? It's so beautiful. The boss still thinks that it's small. He has another yacht that's being ordered. It costs more than $300 million. Fellwood Cisco gasped. That was way too rich. $300 million. It could probably be ranked among the top 10 yachts in the world, right? Although Fellwood Cisco was considered a rich man, however, most of his assets were in his company. His engineering company was valued by the bank at around $200 million US. He had 60% of the shares, so his personal assets were more than $100 million. However, his liquid funds were less than $5 million. He didn't even have $1 million in cash. He naturally couldn't spend as much as Chun Zhao, not to mention the Hydra and the unfinished super yacht. The cars in the garage alone were probably worth more than $20 million. Fellwood also knew that the house's AI butler system would cost tens of millions of dollars. Chapter 1880. After Chun Zhao finished his morning exercise, he apologized to Fellwood. After all, he'd left the guest at home and went to exercise. He washed off the seawater on his body so that it wouldn't turn into salt crystals. Mr. Chun, do you exercise so much every morning? I'm used to it. Portia thought to herself. This was already a small amount today. Usually, Chun Zhao's morning training was 10 times more than this. If he had nothing to do in the morning, he'd basically train his body. Mr. Chun, are you used to this house? Are there any flaws in the design? Fellwood acted up again and asked how comfortable Chun Zhao's house was. Even the most perfect house had flaws. Even Mingwe Villa was no exception. When decorating the villa, try to reduce the sharp angles, Chun Zhao said. After all, there were children at home and they were active. Bumps and bumps were unavoidable. If there were sharp angles in the house, it would be a great threat to the children. Moreover, even Chun Zhao couldn't be absolutely sure about the unintentional injuries. I understand. I will supervise the renovation of the villa by Mirror Lake. Fellwood nodded. Then, should Mingwe Villa be renovated? This is a flaw in our company. We have to take responsibility. We'll talk about it after Mirror Lake is finished, Chun Zhao said. Are there any other requirements? It's best to add a larger elevator to the front yard to the beach. There are so many children and the small elevator isn't enough. This was a problem he hadn't considered before. Back then, there were only 4 people, pets, and underlings, so a 500-kilogram elevator was enough. but then they adopted 8 children. The small elevator wasn't enough at all when the children went up and down. Just then, Stephen and Famis walked in. "Hi, Chun." When Felwood saw Stephen, he was stunned for a moment. Then he froze. "You're Mr. Stephen?" "Stephen, let me introduce you. This is Felwood Cisco. He's in charge of designing and building the villa at Mirror Lake." "Hello, Mr. Felwood." "Hello, Mr. Stephen." Felwood didn't expect Chun Zhao to introduce him to Stephen at all. Who was Stephen? He was the #1 director in the world. His identity, his fame, and his influence made it impossible for anyone to ignore him. In particular, the movie Kidnapped, which was released at the beginning of this month, caused an uproar in Hollywood. It kept breaking all the movie records. At the same time, it also increased Stephen's influence. Recently, he even had a new title. Stephen was known as the man who could shake Hollywood single-handedly. Stephen may not be the most powerful man in Hollywood. However, those who were more influential than him were all CEOs of the Big Six. They were backed by the Big Six. That was why he had more influence than Stephen. Apart from their identities, they were just rich people. But Stephen was different. He relied purely on himself. "Mr. Felwood, did Chin tell you about me?" "I've roughly explained it, but the specific design and construction of this project can only be carried out after my team of designers, and I have seen the site." "Of course, I understand. It was because Stephen liked the design of Mirror Lake Villa. Therefore, he hoped that Felwood Cisco, as a construction party, could also help him design and build a manor." Felwood also attached great importance to this project. After all, the employer this time was Stephen. If his manor was built, then as long as Stephen promoted it a little, then his company would be completely famous. He could design and build a new home for the world's best director. Just this alone would bring a lot of benefits to his company. The construction industry loved to design and build houses for famous people, especially Hollywood stars. Their homes would often be noticed by the media. Even the construction party would receive attention. "Mr. Felwood, are you free today? How about you come with me to my land to take a look?" Of course. Felwood Cisco gladly accepted the offer. "Chun, come with me," Stephen said. "Why me? I don't know architecture. Can you give me some suggestions? There are so many kids at home. Portia can't handle it alone." In fact, Chun Zhao often let Portia take care of the kids alone. However, Chun Zhao was too lazy to go out, especially to Stephen's mountain. There was nothing there. He really didn't want to go. "Then bring them all," Stephen said matter-of-factly. Then he turned his head. "Little Jerlin, do you want to see the lake on the mountain?" "Yes, I want to go." Jerlin immediately responded to Stephen's call. Chun Zhao rolled his eyes. "Fine. There were more adults today, so they didn't need to drive an RV or MPV." Stephen also brought Famdis. Each of them drove a car. 1 or 2 kids were enough in each car. The few cars headed towards Stephen's land. At the foot of the mountain, everyone alighted. The kids were full of firepower. Chun Zhao carried little Larissa while the other kids ran up the rugged mountain road. The mountain wasn't actually very tall. It just hadn't been built yet. The road wasn't that bad. The journey up the mountain took about 10 minutes. After the road was built, it would probably only take 2 or 3 minutes to go up and down the mountain. When they reached the top of the mountain, Felwood Cisco said, "Mr. Stephen, if you want to build the villa on the mountain, the road on the mountain can't be built in a straight line. It can either be a spiral route around the mountain or an S-shaped route. Which one do you prefer? It'll be a lot longer around the mountain, right? But it's safer to build a mountain road around the mountain. The S-shaped path will have a few big turns, so the speed will be limited. It'll also be dangerous when you turn. Can we build a straight path? We can't build a straight, steep road. The mountain is at least 1,000 meters high. The slope will be almost 40 degrees. Cars can't run up it, so a spiral road is the best." "Indeed." Felwood Cisco nodded. "Actually, even if we build a long spiral road around the mountain, it'll only take us 5 minutes at most. Also, we can enjoy the scenery on the back of the mountain through the spiral road. Mr. Stephen's forest is quite beautiful. It stretches for hundreds of kilometers. We can even build a small courtyard on the back of the mountain. You can also stop the car and rest in the courtyard when you're free." Chapter 1881. Where does the water come from? Fellwood asked. Underground river, Stephen said. The underground river turned the mountaintop lake into living water. The rich nutrients in the river also flowed into the lake. It was precisely because of this that the lake was so full of vitality. Plus, the wind from the mountaintop made the entire lake sparkling. Portia was secretly amazed by the beautiful scenery. These rich people always took the best places. Fellwood Cisco was also amazed. The scenery here was too beautiful. It wasn't inferior to Mirror Lake. However, due to the geology, LA had many lakes. Fellwood wondered if he should look for a place with such beautiful scenery. Being able to live in such a place would definitely make one's body and mind happy. What's the lake called? I haven't named it yet, Stephen said. At the same time, he looked at Chun Zhao. Chun, what do you think? Chun Zhao touched his forehead. I'll name it myself. I don't want to name it for you. If you're not satisfied in the future, you'll blame me. Stephen thought for a moment and said, How about Blessed Lake? I think this is land blessed by God. Chun Zhao pursed his lips. These foreigners indeed had similar tastes. Chun, don't you think my place is prettier than your Mirror Lake? Huh. In terms of scenery, Mirror Lake isn't worse than yours. In terms of value, my Mirror Lake isn't as high above sea level. Me, Phalai, and our kids can gallop as much as we want. We can also raise cows and sheep and grow our favorite fruits and vegetables. For example, grapes. Can you grow such good fruits here? I have a wider field of vision here, and I can easily go hunting in the mountains. Darling, do you want to go hunting? You can come here to hunt in the future. My place is connected to the forest too, Chun Zhao said in disdain. We can also hunt in the mountains. We won't come here to hunt. How close is your place to the city? What wild animals? My place is different. It's very ecological. I can drive a yacht in my place. Can you move it to the lake on the mountain? It's the same no matter where. Stephen was also anxious. To Stephen and Chun Zhao, he was just like a kid who liked to run his mouth. In any case, whatever my family has, your family can't compare. The others looked at the two of them speechlessly. Fellwood Cisco, on the other hand, stayed away from their argument. He was the most awkward one. He didn't want to offend anyone. After the argument, Fellwood said, Mr. Stephen, the best place to build the manor is over there. What do you think? Why over there? That's because it's the west side of the Blessed Lake, and the wind from the coastline blows from there. Therefore, in terms of wind direction, it's best to build a house facing the wind. When you're free, you can relax in the courtyard and enjoy the wind from the coastline. On the other hand, the natural light in that direction is unobstructed, and you can get abundant natural light all day long. That does seem to make sense. Stephen nodded. My budget is $100 million US. Everyone was stunned. Even Chun Zhao was shocked. Stephen, are you crazy? This shouldn't cost that much, right? My request is to surpass Chin's Mirror Lake. Mr. Fellwood, can you provide an outstanding design? Chun Zhao's face darkened. Fellwood smiled bitterly. How would he answer? He couldn't say in front of Chun Zhao that he could definitely do it. I can only provide the best design I can. I can't give a definite answer. Stephen, do you have so much money that you don't know where to spend it? At the beginning of next month, we'll get our first share of the box office. Chun Zhao's eyes brightened. How much can we get? Right now, we can only get the North American box office, Stephen said. We still need to calculate the overseas box office. After deducting various taxes, the first North American box office should be $3 billion US. We both have 30% investment, so it's around $400 million. Fellwood Cisco and Portia were greatly provoked. Evil capitalists. Didn't that old asterisk Schulrasfa get more? We can't help it. Not only is he one of the producers, but PLM is also the distributor. At least 50% of the movie's profits will go into his pocket. Chun Zhao and Stephen each had 30% of the box office, but they couldn't really get 30%. The two of them were worth 30% of the profits, not 30% of the box office. How much can we get from the overseas box office? It should be higher than the North American box office, right? We can't get much from the overseas box office. It's not even as much as the North American box office. Why? Of course. The overseas box office is more complicated, especially PLM's distribution fees. According to the contract, the overseas box office takes up most of their revenue. We can get about $300 million each. Although their movie was just for fun, they were still very formal when they signed the contract. They would get as much as they should. Everything was done according to the contract. We have to go and blackmail that old Astrashol Rasfa. Otherwise, I won't be satisfied. I think so too. Stephen nodded. Felwood, let's stop here for today, Chinzhao said. Bring some people to investigate the scene another day. Okay. Stephen, let's go to Rasfa's house now. Let's go. He stole a lot of wine from you. Let's go drink all of his wine cellar today. After Felwood left the mountain, he parted ways with Chun Zhao's group. He also wanted to join in the fun, but his relationship with Chun Zhao and Stephen wasn't at the level where they could have fun together, so he still left dutifully. Portia watched as Chun Zhao and Stephen led the way. After arriving at Beverly Hills, they walked into a huge manor. She felt deeply hurt again. Their friend was indeed a rich man, a super rich man. Seeing Chun Zhao and Stephen, Paul left to welcome them. Paul, is Rasfa home? Mr. Rasfa is at the office. I'll call him now, Paul said. Tell him that if he doesn't come back in half an hour, Chun and I will drink all the wine in his wine cellar. Paul was helpless, but he couldn't stop Chun Zhao and Stephen. He could only pick up the phone and call Rasfa. Chapter 1882. Portia looked at the beach that was even longer than Bright Moon Beach. Portia cursed the evil capitalists in her heart again. Every inch of land in Beverly Hills was worth its weight in gold. The location of the beach was even higher. The price of such a long coast was probably more expensive than the construction of the entire Mingwei Villa. This wasn't a remote area like Bright Moon Beach. There were no facilities nearby. The entire Bright Moon Beach was only $20 million. Of course, the real reason why Bright Moon Beach was so cheap was because of the sharks. Before Chinzhao moved in, there were hundreds of sharks near Bright Moon Beach. Beverly Hills, on the other hand, was a combination of tourism, shopping, leisure, and high-end residential area. In addition, many celebrities and rich people moved in. The Oscars, Grammys, Golden Globes, and other events also increased the value of Beverly Hills. A 200-square-meter house here would cost $3 million. That was around $150,000 per square meter. In other areas, a house would only cost $100,000 to $200,000. As for Portia, she roughly estimated the value of this super mansion in front of her. Without a few $100 million, it would be impossible to buy it. Portia was shocked once again. Then Rasfa returned. He saw Chun Zhao and Stephen moving the wine out. Paul tried to stop them, but Rasfa was furious when he walked in. You two are too much. Rasfa roared in exasperation. I'm still in a meeting. Isn't that perfect? We gave you a reason to slack off, Chun Zhao said matter-of-factly. Put my wine down, or I'll have Paul call the police. Fuck you. You stole all this from Chun. Don't think I don't know. You say it like you didn't do it, Rasfa said, unconcerned. Paul, go prepare some food for us, Chun Zhao said. Paul left this troublesome place as if he was escaping. The three of them couldn't afford to offend him. Chun, you usually don't come when I call you. Why did you come today? I'm eating from the rich, Chun Zhao said. You earn so much. You have to pay something. That's right. Take this wine as payment. Stephen held 2 bottles of purple brew in his hands. You say it like you earned very little. Rasfa rolled his eyes. All the accounts were from their company. Of course, Rasfa knew how much money Stephen and Chun Zhao had. But we still earn less than you. Portia hated these 3 evil capitalists very much. Rasfa looked at Portia, who was standing at the side. Who is this young lady? My personal assistant, Portia. Find a place to play. After Portia left, Rasfa came over immediately. Chin, did you fuck her? Get lost, old pervert. The 3 of them sat on the beach, watching the children playing on the beach. Rasfa and Stephen already knew that Chun Zhao had adopted 8 children, but this was the first time they had seen it. Chin, what were you thinking? Why did you adopt so many children? It was a spur-of-the-moment idea. Do you regret it? I don't regret it. It's just that sometimes I feel tired, but I also feel a sense of accomplishment. Let them come to my place to play when they're free, Rasfa said. Your place is too remote. What fun do you have here? Watching you play with female celebrities? Aren't you afraid that Chen will kill you? Stephen rolled his eyes. Come to my place after my manor is built. You're moving? Rasfa still didn't know that Stephen had bought that land. Don't you know? Stephen bought a few mountains. There's a very beautiful lake at the top of one of them. He's planning to build a new home on the lake. Really? Is that place nice? Chen said it's very nice. Stephen could only see the scenery, but he believed Chun Zhao. Since Chun Zhao said that the blessed lake was very nice, it must be. After dinner, Chun Zhao and Stephen left with the children. Fantas, it's night. Be careful when you escort Stephen. Okay, Chun. Bye. Bye. Portia helped to drive. The two of them took the children away in batches. When Chun Zhao and Portia returned to Mingwe Villa, Fei Lai also arrived home. Chun, where did you take the children to play today? Stephen's new land, Chun Zhao said. I introduced Fellwood Cisco to Stephen. In the afternoon, we went to Rasfa's house in Beverly Hills. Boss, what's Mr. Rasfa's business? He's the chairman of PLM. Portia's eyes widened. He's the chairman of PLM, one of the big six? He's also a major shareholder. Rasfa's business was very complicated. His total assets were probably in the tens of billions. Of course, he was most famous for his identity as the chairman of PLM. Mr. Yang, won't you consider it? We can provide you and Mount Longhu with a generous sponsorship fee. Vestana looked at Yang sincerely. I'm sorry, I'm just the person in charge of Dragon Tiger Mountain's Overseas Affairs Office. Miss Vestana, if you want to hire one of our brothers from Dragon Tiger Mountain as a consultant, you can contact our contact person. If you don't have a way to contact them, I can provide it. Vestana's expression darkened. In order to rope Yang Guo in, she had made up her mind to hire him. If Yang Guo could accept the invitation of the psionic ability team and become their special consultant, he would be able to become their special advisor. It meant that they could be connected to Dragon Tiger Mountain in China. Vestana didn't know about Dragon Tiger Mountain in the past, but after coming into contact with the spiritual world, she finally understood what Dragon Tiger Mountain represented. It was a super sect like Mount Everest, the highest peak in the world, and their leader seemed to be the strongest in the spiritual world. Vestana felt that he was powerful because he was from China. Dragon Tiger Mountain and their leader were definitely stronger than him. If she could get the support of Dragon Tiger Mountain and their leader, then the psionic team's power would increase greatly. For this, she was willing to pay a high price. But Yang didn't care at all. He just brushed her off. Every time Vestana saw Yang businesslike attitude, she wanted to beat him up. But she also knew that she couldn't beat Yang. Even if she could, she didn't dare to. Dragon Tiger Mountain was a super sect that everyone couldn't ignore. Vestana dared to lead the psionic team to fight against the supernatural organization led by Chun Zhao, because she knew what Chun Zhao and the organization were worried about. But Dragon Tiger Mountain was different. With one order, they could make the psionic team fall apart. Chapter 1883. Longhu Mountain's North American resident office was actually an office rented in an old neighborhood. There was a sign hanging on the door, Longhu Acupuncture, Massage and Massage. Yang's office was a single room with a bathroom. The rent was less than $1,000 a month. The windows and doors were closed. When Yang smoked, the whole room was filled with smoke. Vestana had been here a few times, but she still couldn't get used to the environment. Yang leaned lazily on the boss's chair. Miss Vestana, I've told you many times that if you want to cooperate with Longhu Mountain, I'd like to express my gratitude and welcome. I can give you the phone number of the person in charge of Longhu Mountain's Foreign Affairs Office, but I don't have the authority to accept cooperation intentions on my own, so you should contact and consult Longhu Mountain's Foreign Affairs Office, Yang said lazily. Or is my English bad? You don't understand what I mean. Vestana sighed. She had tried to contact Longhu Mountain's Foreign Affairs Office directly. But what was the difference between the psionic team and Longhu Mountain? A remote African primary school went to Harvard University and said, They wanted to cooperate and exchange. Was that even possible? Of course Harvard would ignore them. Longhu Mountain's Foreign Affairs Office's attitude was similar. They said they would pass on the message to the Divine Master and thank the psionic team for their friendship. It was a formal reply, but they threw Vestana's contact information into the trash can. Only then did Vestana remember to contact Yanghua first. Yanghua was from Longhu Mountain after all. If she could get Yanghua, it would be easy to deepen the relationship with Longhu Mountain through him. Moreover, it was said that Yanghua was also a powerful spiritualist. Vestana also found out through the intelligence network that Yanghua was a disciple of the Dao generation in Longhu Mountain. The Dao generation was quite high in seniority. It was said that the next Divine Master would be chosen from the Dao generation. So once the next Divine Master took over, Yanghua's status would also rise. This was also the reason why Vestana had been making promises time and time again, regardless of the cost. As long as Yanghua was willing to come to the psionic team as a special consultant, Vestana was willing to offer many conditions. From personal benefits to resources, she would give Yanghua whatever he wanted. At that moment, Yanghua stood up. Vestana saw Yanghua's reaction for the first time. She thought Yanghua had accepted her invitation and became excited. Vestana, it's time. Time? I'm off work. Sorry, I should go. Vestana was a little frantic. She felt that facing Yanghua was similar to facing Chen Zhao. It was both unbearable. However, the two of them were completely different extremes. Chen Zhao was so domineering that no one could touch him. If he did, he would get hurt first. Yanghua, on the other hand, was the kind of person who would laugh and let you disturb him for the entire afternoon. He was like a bouncy ball. No matter how they harassed him, he just listened with a smile. I'm glad you came. You're welcome to come again. Vestana could only leave gloomily. As she walked out of the dark and damp corridor, a woman in a cloak walked past her. The woman's cloak was in tatters, and her entire body and head were wrapped up tightly. Vestana glanced at the strange woman in astonishment. The woman walked to Yanghua's office and knocked on the door. Come in. Mr. Yang. Hi, Layla, you're here. How have you been? Yanghua greeted her. Not very good. The woman's expression was a little ugly. I need treatment. Okay, wait a moment. I'll make some medicine for you. Yanghua stood up and opened the cabinet. He took out some strange ingredients. After Yanghua made the ingredients, he threw them into the juicer to make juice. In the end, a cup of black liquid flowed out of the juicer. It's done. Take it. Yanghua handed the black liquid to Layli. Layli put the cup to her mouth and immediately felt a pungent smell. However, she resisted the nausea and forced herself to drink all the black liquid. Layli felt her stomach churn several times. This made her retch a few times. Then, the medicine started to take effect. Layli's breathing gradually calmed down. Layli, you seem to be acting up more and more frequently. Yanghua looked at her seriously. Did you use that power in your body again? I'm in trouble. Someone wants to catch me. Someone wants to catch you? Yes, and they're very strong. Even though I used the power in my body, I still couldn't beat them. Who? I don't know. It sounds like Spanish from their language. People from Spain? Yanghua thought about it and said, you can't beat them even if you use the power in your body. Yes, they're very strong, Layli said bitterly. Also, they seem to know my ability and are targeting me. I can't fight them at all. Yanghua and Layli were old acquaintances. Thus, Yanghua wanted to help Layli solve her problem. Actually, the best way was to send Layli back to China, as long as she was on Mount Longhu. As long as Layli was on Dragon Tiger Mountain, no one would be able to do anything to her. However, the key problem was not on Dragon Tiger Mountain. Dragon Tiger Mountain did not reject outsiders. For example, Zhang Tianyi and a few other foreign students. There were also a few foreign outer disciples in the mountain. As for Layli herself, the power in her body strongly rejected the East. If he really sent Layli to the East, she would probably go berserk on the plane. Yanghua scratched his head and said, I'll call Grandmaster and ask if he has any solutions. As Yanghua spoke, he picked up the phone and dialed Zhang Tianyi's number. Hello, Grandmaster. It's me, Little Yang. Gwr, do you know what time it is? Zhang Tianyi let out a deafening roar on the other end of the phone. The entire Dragon Tiger mountain trembled under Zhang Tianyi's anger. When the Celestial Master was angry, dragons and tigers roared. Oh no! Yang cursed inwardly. He forgot that it was only 4 or 5 in the morning in China. Grandmaster, I'm in trouble. My friend and I are being hunted. It's a friend named Layli I mentioned to you last time. Being hunted? Who's after you? I don't know. They speak Spanish. Why don't you take them back to the mountain and hide? I don't need to call you if I can go back. You know Layli's situation. The angel blood in her is very against the land of China. Then there's nothing I can do. I can't let these old bones run over to the Americans. Grandmaster, please think of another way. How about I ask your wife to help you? No, please don't. Chapter 1884. Do you have to be like this? What's wrong with your Xiaolong Nu? She has a good body, looks, background, power, and bloodline. What are you not satisfied with? My ancestor, can different species combine? Yang cried in pain. Of course. Why not? Don't you see all sorts of mixed bloods? Why are you fighting with them? The problem is she. Every time she gets excited, she transforms. You don't have to tell me about your relationship. Forget it. Let's not talk about her. My friend and I are like this. You have to think of something. How about asking my senior Dowie to help me? You're thinking too much. Your senior Dowie is a candidate for the leader. He's the young leader of Dragon Tiger Mountain now. What do you have to ask him to help you? You can't just watch my friend and I die in a foreign place, right? Do you remember that Chin guy I told you to find last time? Go hide his house. Him? Can he? Yang Guo was doubtful. Didn't you go to his house? Didn't you see the dragon head in front of his house? That dragon was really slain by him. Yang Guo asked in surprise. Yang Guo had thought that Chun Zhao had gotten a dragon head to show off. He didn't think that Chun Zhao had really killed the dragon head. If he really has the ability to kill a dragon, he should be able to protect my friend, Yang Guo murmured. With your lousy skills, everyone is better than you. What's there to complain about? Zhang Tianyi's tone was filled with disdain. Ancestor, I'm a genius of Dragon Tiger Mountain, okay? There's no one in the younger generation who's more talented than me. Good my asterisk SS. If you can, go kill a dragon for me to see. It's not like I haven't seen a dragon before. Yang Guo pursed his lips. In fact, his wife's nickname was Little Dragon Maiden, and her true form was that of a Western dragon. Yang Guo had seen his father-in-law. Back then, he'd been beaten up by his father-in-law for marrying Xiaolong Nu. Yang Guo felt that he could withstand his father-in-law's beatings. If he worked hard for a few more years, he might be able to kill a dragon. The dragon head in his yard is different. What's different? Forget it. There's no point in telling you. You don't understand at all. That Chin fellow is many times stronger than you. If I work harder, I can also catch up to him. I hope you can. Zhang Tianyi didn't believe it. Zhang Tianyi and Chun Zhao had sparred before. Although both sides were holding back, there were still some exchanges. However, at that time, it was only a spar, and no one used their true abilities. But Zhang Tianyi knew that if they really fought, he probably wouldn't be able to beat Chun Zhao. Of course, Zhang Tianyi's ability didn't lie entirely in his cultivation, but in his spells. In particular, he had the ability to subdue demons and devils. Zhang Tianyi was confident he could even deal with a great demon like Tamamo no Mei. Even if he didn't kill Tamamo no Mei, he would at least be able to seal her. And Yang Guo's talent was indeed rare in this world. But Yang Guo could only reach the same level of cultivation as her. But Chun Zhao was different. He already had his own path. In the jargon of Taoism, he already had his own Tao. He hung up the call with Zhang Tianyi. Yang would turn to look at Rayleigh. Let's go. I'll take you somewhere. Suddenly, a huge impact came from behind without any warning. Yang back was facing the window, so the impact sent him flying out. However, in the instant that Yang Guo was sent flying, he threw out 3 talismans. Green light, white face, red spirit. Yang Guo quickly made a hand seal. The 3 talismans instantly turned into 3 strange beasts of different shapes, green, white, and red. The 3 beasts were also demons, but they were different from Japanese Shikigami spells. The 3 beasts actually had nothing to do with Yang Guo. Moreover, the three beasts before him weren't in their original forms either. Their original forms were extremely powerful. They borrowed their power through talismans and spells. Green Light was in the form of a flood dragon, White Face was a white tiger, and Red Spirit was a red crane. Don't attack. Let's go. Yangwa pulled Rayleigh and turned to run. The person who'd ambushed him was very strong. Yangwa didn't want to fight them here, especially since Rayleigh was still here. If Rayleigh couldn't hold back and attacked again, it would be even more troublesome. Rayleigh was pulled away by Yangwa. The three beast clones were left to deal with the person who'd ambushed them. It's that group, Rayleigh said. Is it them? Yes. The person who ambushed you just now isn't awakened. He seems to be able to detonate anything. More than one person? Yang was suddenly stopped. More than one. As soon as he said that, someone blocked their way. It was a woman with waist-length hair wearing tight clothes. The woman held two swords in her hands. The long sword in the woman's hand was constantly making fancy movements. Be careful. This woman is also very strong, Rayleigh warned. She knows a special type of cloning spell. As soon as Rayleigh finished speaking, half of the long-haired woman's body emerged from the shadow. That half of the body was the long-haired woman's appearance, but it was completely black and her facial features couldn't be seen clearly. At the same time, the person who'd been entangled by the three beast clones also came out, blocking Rayleigh and Yangwa's path. You two, this humble one is Longhu Mountain's Divine Master Sex, Dao, Generation Yangwa. I hope you two can give her Divine Master Sex some face. This humble one will be very grateful. Yangwa actually knew that it was very unlikely to use Longhu Mountain's Divine Master Sex name to scare off the two attackers. But it could occasionally work. Some people just fell for it. Although Yangwa's tone was weak, he was still 120% vigilant. He turned around and looked at the two people in front and behind with a serious expression. The person chasing them suddenly charged at Yangwa and Rayleigh. He was extremely fast. He ran on all fours like a wild beast. However, his appearance did not change at all, not even a little bit. Beast-like technique. Yangwa suddenly took out a bell and shook it. Rumble thought it should have been a clear sound. But Yangwa shook it like a cannon. The surrounding walls collapsed. The person using the beast-like technique was directly hit by the sound of the bell and was sent flying. You'd better not act recklessly. The bell in my hand is a treasure of Longhu Mountain's Divine Master Sect. If I release it at full power, you two will die without a doubt. Suddenly, a black shadow crept up from under Yangwa's feet. In the next instant, the black shadow transformed into a human figure that tightly entangled Yangwa. The long-haired woman attacked. Chapter 1885. This shadow could be controlled by the long-haired woman, and just like the main body, it could move as she pleased. Yangwa tried to form a hand seal several times, but couldn't close his hands. The beast-like man on the other side lunged at him again. Yangwa saw that the enemy was about to succeed. Suddenly, Yangwa's right arm fell off. The shadow had originally pierced through Yangwa's armpit and latched onto his chest. As Yangwa's right arm fell off, the shadow couldn't help but loosen. The moment Yangwa broke free, his left hand grabbed his right arm, which turned into an edgeless greatsword. Heavy edgeless sword. Bam! The man on the other side was sent flying. The long-haired woman's shadow tried to latch onto Yangwa again, but after losing his arm, Yangwa's strength increased instead of decreasing. He turned around and swung his sword. The shadow was smashed to pieces. The long-haired woman didn't slow down, still stabbing her sword towards Yangwa. The long-haired woman's attack was swift and fierce, her two swords sharp. But Yangwa's greatsword was as heavy as Mount Tai, as powerful as a tidal wave. The long-haired woman couldn't block a single attack. The greatsword had already landed on her. But as the greatsword struck her, it also shattered like a shadow. The long-haired woman reappeared from the shadow in a dark corner. Yangwa looked at her. Although she was Caucasian, she used a Chinese martial arts style. This martial arts style wasn't martial arts, but rather martial arts combined with spells. There were close combat martial arts, as well as strange and ever-changing spells. This woman's martial art style was full of strangeness, impossible to defend against. On the other side, the beast-like man also stood up and scathed. "Let's go," Yangwa told Rayleigh in a low voice. They couldn't stay here for long. Both of them weren't easy to deal with. Rayleigh was a bit confused. Yangwa was clearly suppressing them. Why did he run? Sensing Rayleigh's confused gaze, Yangwa whispered, "My greatsword has never been sharpened before. It can only protect myself. It can't hurt the enemy." Rayleigh still didn't understand. What difference does that make? Yangwa couldn't explain it to Rayleigh at a time like this. "Follow behind me. We're going out." At this time, the long-haired woman and the beast-like man attacked again. Eek! Suddenly, a sharp sound came from above. A gray shadow descended from the sky, the sound like a sword, the momentum like an arrow. The long-haired woman felt a sharp pain on her left shoulder. Her shoulder had been scratched by Yangwa's eagle. The long-haired woman instantly fell to the ground. Yangwa grabbed Layleigh's hand and walked past her. In an instant, Yangwa transformed the sword back into his right arm and reattached it to the stump. At this time, the eagle turned around and Yangwa reached out to pull it back. The condor actually pulled Yangwa into the air. Yangwa then grabbed Rayleigh and flew into the air as well. Layleigh's face was full of surprise. The eagle looked bigger than an ordinary eagle, but she didn't expect it to be able to carry two adults in the sky. The long-haired woman and the beast-like man could only watch as Yangwa and Lily left. There was nothing either of them could do about it. Phew! Those two fellows are really hard to deal with. "Yang, you're clearly stronger than the two of them. Why are you running?" Yangwa smiled bitterly. "I practice the Taoist Yin and Yang dual life. In my normal state, I'm Yang. In this state, my defense is 100 times that of a normal person. It's almost indestructible. But there's a flaw, and that is that I can't kill. Look at the sword that my right arm has transformed into. The sword doesn't have a blade." Yangwa paused, and then said, "If I really want to kill someone, I have to use the Yin death state." "Then why don't you use the Yin death state? Do you think that state is something that can be changed whenever you want?" Yangwa shook his head. "The Yin death state will cause me to lose my mind. If my Grandmaster isn't here, I wouldn't dare to use the Yin death state at all. Only the Grandmaster's aura can suppress my loss of mind. So, unless it's necessary, I don't dare to use the Yin death state." Rayleigh nodded. It was unknown whether she understood or not. Although Rayleigh had the bloodline of an angel, she didn't have much contact with the spiritual world. She had known Yangwa for a few years, and every time, she would ask Yangwa for help to suppress the bloodline in her body. Yangwa also rarely talked to her about the spiritual world. "Your big eagle is so strong. What breed is it?" Yangwa rolled his eyes. Who knew what breed it was? In any case, it wasn't an ordinary eagle. In fact, it was a demon that hadn't transformed. It was given to him by Zhang Tianyi. He said that only with a big eagle would he be complete. Fortunately, it was night. No one would see the two flying in the sky. "Where are we going now?" "There's someone in Los Angeles who can protect us." "Who?" "He's also my compatriot, a Chinese." Children's laughter could be heard from the front yard. Feilai was teaching little Larissa how to walk. Little Larissa's athletic ability was weaker than little Gerlin's. In 5 months, little Gerlin could already run, jump, swim, and climb trees. Little Larissa still staggered and followed Feilai's steps. "Good, darling. Very good." Feilai stood on the other side and clapped her hands to encourage little Larissa. Little Larissa stood up with difficulty and took a step with difficulty. However, her other foot was left behind and she couldn't move forward. After a few tries, little Larissa finally moved her other leg. She couldn't maintain her balance and fell to the ground. Nevertheless, little Larissa stood up firmly, not discouraged at all. Chun Zhao sat on the ground and put his palms in front of him. Wearing boxing gloves, Crow kept punching Chun Zhao's palms. "Very good. Left fist, right fist, left fist. Continue. Speed up. Raise your leg." Crow's attacks were very fierce. He used both his hands and feet, but he still couldn't break through Chun Zhao's defense. Under the full attack, Crow was already sweating profusely. Nevertheless, Crow still persisted. Crow was introverted, but this also made him stubborn and persistent. Chen Zhao didn't tell him to stop, so he kept attacking. Chen Zhao glanced at the sky and then waved his hand. Okay, you can stop now. Just then, the eagle descended from the sky with Yonghua and Lily. Lily looked at the men, women, and children in the manor. Was this the place that Yonghua said could protect them? On the other hand, Yonghua had a friendly expression. Chen Zhao, hello. Chen Zhao ignored Yonghua and turned to look at Lily. This woman's body has an aura that makes me very uncomfortable. Lily looked at Chen Zhao. She also felt uncomfortable. The pets in the house also felt uncomfortable or disliked Lily. Just then, Samuel jumped onto Chen Zhao's shoulder and looked at Lily. Descendant of angels. The moment Lily saw Samuel, a huge pair of wings spread open on her back. Chapter 1886. A holy aura emanated from Raleigh. Her gaze toward Chen Zhao was filled with hostility. Even she didn't know why she had such a feeling. However, Samuel only glanced at Raleigh and then lost interest. Chen Zhao also had the same feeling toward Raleigh. It was like she was his natural enemy. After all, he had demon blood in him too. However, one only needed to be rational to know that this was hostility from the bloodline. He wouldn't have any special feelings for her. Raleigh, why are you using this power again? Yonghua asked, frowning. Just now, when facing danger, Raleigh had resisted the urge to use her angelic power. But now, facing Chen Zhao, Raleigh actually released this dangerous power. Put your wings away, Chen Zhao said indifferently. If you want to stay here as a guest. Raleigh took a deep breath and suppressed the uncomfortable feeling in her heart. Before Raleigh and Yonghua arrived, Chen Zhao had received Zhang Tiany's call. Chen Zhao cursed silently. He'd just gotten Zhang Tiany's heaven and man coexistence and owed him a favor. But now it was time to return the favor. And an angel, a mixed angel. She was the nemesis of their entire family. After Raleigh put away her wings, the atmosphere relaxed. Is this your little lover? She's the same as Yonghua in the novel. Chen Zhao glanced at Raleigh and then conversed with Yonghua in Chinese. What? I have nothing to do with her. Neither does Yonghua in the novel. Did you forget what Yonghua said? Once you meet Yonghua, you'll regret your whole life, Chen Zhao said, gloating. But you have a good chance to enjoy having two lovers. Spare me, please. If my wife hears this, she'll kill me. Oh, where's Xiao Long Nu? You only brought your little lover? You didn't bring your wife? I don't want to talk to you. Fei Lai brought Raleigh to wash up and change. She looked like an African refugee now. What's with that woman? As you can see, she's a woman who's being hunted. She has angel blood, Yonghua said. That's too simple. Be more specific. That's all I know. Who's chasing her? Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. Kill the person who's chasing her. Are you a man or not? She and I are friends. Let's not talk about the fact that I don't know who's after her. Even if I knew, it's none of my business. Besides, I might not be able to deal with the people who are after her. Do you want to help me? If you don't care, then why should I care? At most, I'll provide you with a place to stay. If anyone comes to harass you within the boundaries of my home, I'll help you deal with it. But once you leave this area, you can do whatever you want. If we don't get rid of the people who are after Layli, won't she have to stay here for a long time? Long term? You're wrong. I have at most a week. Within a week, you can either find help from your fellow disciples or get the hell out of here, Chen Zhao said matter-of-factly. A week? How can we make it in time? Yonghua panicked. He was actually very strong, but his battle prowess was very average. Even the two people he faced today, he was clearly stronger than the other party, but he didn't dare to face him head-on. Chen Zhao was unmoved by Yonghua's cries. Anyway, he wouldn't leave a person who was against his family in his home. Taking them in for a week was to return Zhang Tiany's favor. How about we make a bet? Yonghua had an idea. He looked at Chen Zhao with a smile on his face. What bet? Let's bet. If you can't hit me, I'll stand still. If you can injure me within 3 moves, I lose, Yonghua said confidently. Yonghua said confidently. If you don't injure me within 3 moves, I'll consider my win. Little Yang, Chun Zhao said in a strange tone. At the same time, he patted Yang shoulder. Don't call me Little Yang. Fine, Guier. Just call me Little Yang. Little Yang, look at this dragon's head. I killed it. Are you sure you can take it? Yang Guo was very confident in his heart. Back then, he'd withstood his father-in-law's beating for an entire day. After an entire day, he'd at most suffered some light injuries. It was just a drizzle. He didn't believe that Chun Zhao could injure him within 3 moves. Nevertheless, Yang Guo also grasped Chun Zhao's thoughts. Since Chun Zhao had the ability to kill dragons, he must be very confident in his own abilities. He definitely didn't think that Yang Guo could take his attacks. I'm very sure. What if you lose? If I lose, you can do whatever you want to me. What do you mean by that? Even if I wanted to kill you, the people from Dragon Tiger Mountain would come looking for trouble. You're not sincere at all. Chun Zhao's face was full of disdain. He didn't want to kill Yang Guo. Killing him would bring him trouble. So, Yang Guo's bet didn't benefit Chun Zhao at all. Yang Guo thought for a moment and said, Then I'll do whatever you want. What do you think? How long? A year. That's not short, right? Sounds good. Chun Zhao nodded. It would be a waste not to take a free labor. Chun Zhao didn't like Yang Guo, but since it was free, he had no reason to reject. Then if you lose, you have to give Lily at least a year. Yang Guo's face finally revealed a proud smile, no longer hiding his thoughts. It was as if he was mocking Chun Zhao for falling into his trap. Sure. Chun Zhao nodded. Yang Guo took a deep breath. Wait a moment. I'll make some preparations. Go ahead. Tell me when you're ready. With that, Chun Zhao picked up his phone. I'll make a call too. Chun Zhao called Zhang Tianyi. Old Zhang, your disciple said he wants to bet with me. He wants to see if I can break his defense in 3 moves. Why did you call the Grandmaster? Yang Guo looked at Chun Zhao in shock. Zhang Tianyi's face darkened. Give the phone to Yang Guo. Yang Guo took the phone and said timidly, Hello, Grandmaster. Are you out of your mind? Grandmaster, I'm confident. Please don't scold me. What confidence do you have? Admit defeat right now. I'm really confident. You're not even fully grown yet, and you're already challenging everywhere. Grandmaster, I know what I'm doing. After saying that, Yang Guo directly hung up the phone. Chun Zhao, how can you be like this? Calling the Grandmaster completely messed with my mind. I can't even use 10% of my strength now. Then I only need 1 move. If you can block one of my moves, I'll admit defeat. Fine, you said it. Don't go back on your word. Yang Guo threw the phone back to Chun Zhao. Seekong Star-Lord, 6th grade of the middle stage, please issue a decree. Come. Yang Guo shouted and threw the talisman into the air. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.